Finally, for the first time in quite a long time, I'm actually doing a stream that's pertinent to Smash and not just whatever I feel like doing that evening. Anyway, so I figured, don't really have a whole lot to do this evening, so figured I'd make a Ganon matchup chart because, well, it's easy to do, it's entertaining, and I haven't made one in a long time, so I might as well have a little fun with it. So, anyway, once again, hello to everyone. Hopefully the music isn't too loud. I like to have a little bit of like music in the background, so it's not just like awkward silence when I'm not speaking. But my Streamlabs, if I can talk, my Streamlabs setup is kind of not properly calibrated. It kind of my settings got deleted, so I had to remake everything. So I'm not sure how in balance everything is. So if you can't hear me or the music is too loud or whatever, just let me know and I'll adjust it. Anyway, so as you can no doubt see on the screen, the funny thing that you'll immediately notice about this is that does seem good. Cool. And thank you for letting me know. So, anyway, so what you can probably see immediately if I close the and stop giving you loads of feedback from the Streamlabs interface, is that this is not a very optimistic matchup chart, and let me explain why. So I promised myself I would try not to get like too theoretical, and just try to have a little bit of fun with this, just let my intuition guide me a little bit, even if that means being a little inconsistent and confusing myself and maybe you guys in my decision-making process. The reason I am not optimistic, because as you can see, normally you usually have in the matchup chart spectrum, it goes from, you know, so many points positive to so many points negative, and here it's pretty much you go into the extreme negatives and teeter only very slightly into the positives with Ganon. And I guess just for kind of a running definition or a running justification for my placements, in terms of like what I define as a bad or like a winning or losing matchup, generally speaking, and there's more nuance to it, but like I said, just generally speaking, it's that a really bad matchup to me is defined by how much I have to rely on raw prediction. Basically, raw prediction versus reactability. So for instance, Pikachu versus Ganon is, I'll spoil the stream a little bit for you, I would put that in the basically impossible category. The reason is, Pikachu, anything Ganon does, Pikachu can react to that. He doesn't really have to predict what Ganon's going to do. He can just react to whatever Ganon does and sees enormous payoff for it. Whereas with Ganon, anytime Ganon makes a play, it usually involves reading what the Pikachu's going to do 2 to maybe even like 3 steps ahead of time. So to me, that is sort of like one of the defining features of what makes a matchup really just bad versus really good. And that being said, with Ganon, even though I do think that he is theoretically able to win any matchup, because he does have that like statistical variation in his ability to just like delete stocks off of people, you know, if they're having a low IQ day, but it's just like I really don't, under that definition, there aren't really too many situations where I feel like Ganon can just react to what people do and just kind of let them come to him, in that sense. So that's why my outlook on his matchups aren't like super duper positive. Anyway, so let me just pull up Twitch chat because I'm probably like ignoring a bunch of people on accident here. So let me welcome everyone. So Dorky's here, Vanon's here, and Punk. I haven't seen Punk in a while. And CJ the Ace. I know you. I don't recognize. That's the thing with these streams, is like so many people have different Twitch names from their like names I know them by, their handles or whatever. Enster, thank you, dude. I appreciate that. And Twaddle. And yeah, who am I kidding? Ganon beats Pikachu 80-20. I'm just mad that Pikachu's a hard matchup. And Hades, what's up, man? So yeah, anyway, so I'll try to start getting into this without delaying any further. So let me make sure I'm not again ignoring anyone. And you know what? Let me. I'm trying to think of a better way to make it so I can see Twitch chat without like making you guys see Twitch chat as well. Let me go grab my phone real quick. I'll be right back. I just need to have something. Okay, there we go. Just needed to grab my phone so I can actually have something to see Twitch chat on without, like I said, having to have the Streamlabs thing open. So, let me go ahead and open up Twitch, and then we'll get started. Okay. Alright, we should be good to go. Anyway. So again, welcome guys, and so let's get started. So, we'll just start from the top here. So, I think everyone kind of knows, you know, you don't have to really be a Ganon player. Like this matchup has been horrible across every iteration where both Ganon and Olimar / Alf have been in, and I just realized, why is Alf instead of Olimar? Like, Alf isn't even an Echo, whatever, man. So. Like, I honestly don't have a whole lot of experience with this matchup in Ultimate. And also worth mentioning that these really all are going to be very subjective. There are very few of these that I'm really going to be solidly convinced that one person is, or one character is going to like be solidly in one position. I've been proven wrong enough in my own experience where I really thought something was the case and just was proven dead wrong that I am I'm very reluctant to like cast something in stone. So if you disagree with something, I mean, leave. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. If you disagree with something, you know, let me know. If you agree with something, you know, that'd be nice too. It makes me feel like I'm less of an idiot. So anyway, Olimar has been really horrible across all three iterations where Ganon and Olimar have both been in the game. And that's primarily, you know, because one, to me, I'm just going to like list a few standout traits of the matchup. One is that one of Ganon's most potent entry tools, Whiz Kick, is completely, or almost completely invalidated by Pikmin, because when he hits Pikmin, he obviously slows down because of the hit lag, and not only does that slow him down, it effectively reduces the range of Whiz Kick by half. So he can't get in on Olimar. Olimar's tiny, so half of Ganon's moves are not going to hit him, and if they are, you have to be so on point and precise about it, and if you're not, he can easily just juggle you and delete you for like one mistake. But the good news is, and this has also been consistent across all three games, Olimar is one of the only characters that, if he, it might be if he, so, because there's like three things I have to consider here with Flame Choke. There's teching, so there's no tech, so there's not teching and then picking an option. There's teching in any given direction, and then there's Flame Choke. So I can't remember what the deal is with a teched Flame Choke, but in both Tech Away Flame Choke and untechted normal Flame Choke, down smash hits Olimar, and in Brawl and Smash 4 that was absolutely guaranteed. In this game it's not, unfortunately. Or no, not Smash 4, just Brawl, because Brawl you couldn't tech choke. But anyway, the matchup is absolutely just, I'm going to say it is basically impossible. And I'm just going to throw Alpha in there too so it doesn't feel bad. It's not a matchup I would ever bank on. Like I really do firmly believe, obviously, that Ganon can win any matchup, but this is a matchup where I really would feel like my skill, no matter how much skill I pour into the match, there's always going to be a fundamental element of luck that's very present in the success of the match. And that means making some very big, meaty reads that just happen to be successful. And if they aren't, there's just, the gap is so vast that it's hard to close it. But, and like Vanon pointed out, okay, go. So, where was I going with that? Shit. So, oh yeah, so like Vanon was saying, purple Pikmin makes things even worse because it's like, because of the knockback, it's like you then it's just like you can't get in like Nair. You can't jump in Nair. That is jump in Nair. Descending Nair is one of Ganon's only ways to get in on zoners. And Olimar's too low to the ground for that to hit, so he has to commit to forward air, and that just opens him up to grab. So really, there is nothing Ganon can do to compel Olimar to do anything he doesn't want to do. And that really is kind of the defining feature of the basically impossible category. Now, Banjo and Viridian's right. It's like, this is all, like, even though I normally am kind of pessimistic about Ganon, though I would argue pessimism and optimism are really just varying degrees of realism, I think pessimism is the more realistic purview with Ganon. This is ultimately going to be a more optimistic one. So Banjo, I actually, obviously I sold the game a couple months ago, and I've played Banjo, I played Banjo in tournament as Simon, but not as Ganon. So I really don't know too much about Banjo, so I'll come back to him. You know what, I'll let you guys inform me a little on this, you Ganons who've had more experience in this matchup. But, like, my gut feeling is that, I want to say that Banjo, that, again, I can't really justify right now. My gut feeling is that he has this clear advantage. I do know that, like, pooping out grenade eggs is, like, really problematic for Ganon. But I also feel like, aside from that, it's not like Snake, where Snake both has something that is really problematic does Banjo have any, like, conversions off of grenade? You know, because I'm just, again, comparing the parallel to, like, Snake, where it's just, like, not only can he not get in, but it's like if Snake gets in, it's, like, game over, and I'm just thinking, if Banjo gets in on Ganon, it doesn't really feel like it would be that serious of a problem. I know he has Wonder Wing and stuff like that, but you can like, up B Wonder Wing and side B it, so it's like, that kind of seems like that would make the Banjo hedge a little bit. So anyway, the same kind of applies to Bayonetta as well. I think the big thing that made Bayonetta such a pain in the ass, aside from ladders, like, the ladders, of course, were the big pain in the ass in Smash 4. But what made her even more of a pain in Smash 4 was the fact that her hitboxes were so huge, and one thing I always noticed that was just really terrifying to deal with was heel slide. And the fact that if heel slide now hits your shield, she can't mix you up anymore. It's like the heel slide hits and then she's stuck there, and that's like a big thing. And also the fact that Ganon's harder to combo now, and it's like from what little experience I have, I played his name's Silent Rain. He's probably the best Bayonetta I've played, and I played him online quite some time ago. And the matchup, it felt like, I'm gonna say, like, it felt pretty much even. Like that feels like the weirdest thing I feel like maybe I should go take a bath after saying that, but Bayonetta feels like she might be even. Like, if I had to err on either side, because I'm kind of giving myself the latitude to do that with the even or slightly out of, even or slightly in favor categories, I feel like if I had to guess, Bayonetta would be slightly in, the matchup would be slightly in her favor. Just because, again, I can't really think of any situation where Ganon really compels her to do anything. It's just that she can't really do anything to Ganon, aside from, like, really situational ladder combos. But again, I say that mostly in ignorance. So anyway, and Lord's here. It's good to see you, man. Viridian, Gagel. So I already knew Gagel's here. Sonic Man. So anyway, once again, glad you guys are all here. Glad to see you guys. So anyway, Bayonetta I'm gonna put in, and these are roughly these like categories roughly correspond to, the traditional, like, 0, 0.5s, 1 point, stuff like that. You could say basically impossible is like -3, nightmarish but worth attempting is like -2.5 to -2. Then, where Banjo is, that's like -1, and so forth in a fairly logical pattern. So Bowser is really he's really terrifying. But I also know that the matchup's really scary for Bowser. But that being said, I do think Bowser does slightly win the matchup. And that's because there are a lot of Bowsers I know that like, and I don't mean this to say like, oh, you're a low level Bowser if you're afraid of Ganon, but it's just like, I've played a lot of really good Bowsers. I've played Static. One of the Bowsers in my region, Plaidman, is very good. I feel like I've played a lot of really and really great ones online, and the common thread that always made the matchup feel really stressful for me was when Bowser's when they utilized dash dancing. Because Bowser is, like, you have a character like, say, Greninja, who is really good at dash dancing in and out of, say, Whiz Kick range. He's really good at baiting options from Ganon, but in Bowser's case, Bowser is not only good at baiting options, if he baits you, that's like game over. Whereas with someone like Greninja, that's a great noise my dog just made. If Ganon baits Greninja, yeah, Ganon bait. God, I can't get my shit straight. My dog's like choking to death. Everything. If Greninja baits Ganon, it's not that big of a deal. If Bowser successfully baits Ganon, it's like, it's hell. It's like you are going to, half of your stock is gone. And it's tremendously easy to do because Bowser can whiff punish so effectively. Nair is a problem for Bowser to deal with, and Ganon does have guaranteed setups. But they're very situational. That is the thing. And Enster's right. It really is. It can go horribly wrong for either character. But I just feel like Bowser, anything Ganon can do to Bowser, Bowser can do it right back, just slightly better, with more consistency. Because again, Ganon's not really fast enough to outmaneuver Bowser. He really only has the benefit of being able to wall him out because he's so girthy. With stuff like Nair. But again, if Bowser's really smart about dash dancing, just out of range, even Nair can get whiff punished really easily. And to that, even though Ganon does have guaranteed follow-ups off of choke, so if Bowser techs in off of a flame choke, then F-tilt is guaranteed, as well as tech in place. If Bowser's at the ledge, then F-tilt covers everything, irrespective. Like, one of the rare instances in this game, or across any game, where Ganon it's just like, no, you're dead. One of the very precious instances where that's the case for Ganon. But Bowser basically has a functional equivalent to that with Koopa Claw. So it's, and it's like, whereas like Flame Choke is, Flame Choke is almost twice as slow as Koopa Claw. So that being said, but Aerial Flame Choke is really good in this matchup. Aerial Flame Choke is really good, but again, very risky. So that being said, I'm going to put Bowser in the even or slightly out of Ganon's favor. Because I never really feel like I have the upper hand against Bowser. Like, Ganon does have tremendous momentum potential against Bowser in disadvantage, but another thing that's underappreciated, I feel, is that Ganon really cannot land against Bowser. Bowser is fast enough that if Bowser can run behind Ganon, what's Ganon gonna do? Back air him? He can't do anything. He doesn't have the aerial mobility or the options to really intimidate Bowser if the Bowser knows not to, stick his face out in front of his Nair. So this is what the player Plaidman does to me a lot. He'll just run behind me if I get put above him. And then it's just like, well, I basically just have to land and hope he thinks I'm going to whiz kick him, or actually whiz kick and hope he doesn't shield. So, anyway, just going to make sure I'm not ignoring anyone missing. Oh, and hi, Riley. I didn't realize Riley was in here. Did you enjoy my SoundCloud joke earlier? And I think Global's onto something here. Ganon's back air does not actually have a hitbox. It's imaginary. I wish I had my Switch hooked up because I still have images. Like, I sat there at the beginning of Ultimate, like I'd play online and like I'd throw like a back air out, and there were so many times where like my knuckle was like right against someone's teeth, and it wasn't connecting, and my jaw just kept dropping. Like I couldn't believe it. Like I was just, it was horrible. Like I saved all those things because I was just so pissed off. It was like I still like if there's a day where I want to go work out and I'm like I'm low energy or something, I'll just look at those screen caps I took of Ganon's like back air missing by like a hair's breadth and get real pissed off, and then you know, all my energy will return to me. So anyway, Bowser Jr. I fight a Bowser Jr. fairly frequently in my region. His name's Easy Peasy. He's very good. This matchup I feel is, again, I'm going to put this in an even or slightly out of Ganon's favor. And that might seem weird. Like, I know some people might say it's perfectly even, but Bowser Jr. can camp you pretty hard as Ganon. And there are a lot of things he can do to you that are really scary. Like, there really aren't too many situations where Ganon can meaningfully pin Bowser Jr. In a situation that he doesn't want to be in. For instance, like at the ledge, Bowser Jr. has too many mix-ups for Ganon to really want to challenge them. You know, it's... Here, let me get rid of that. And I just... what else was I going to say? Whenever I fight Easy Peasy, it always feels like he's learned to play extremely defensively against me. Like, he will almost never go near me. He'll tend to like wait for me to come to him and then just like try to punish anything I do. And I think, again, sort of like the crux of what slightly tilts this in Bowser Jr.'s favor is the fact that Bowser Jr. Generally wins neutral because his hitboxes are so disjointed. So Ganon has to go out of his way to go above the hitboxes on like forward air and back air, and that's what I usually do when I fight Bowser Jr. is I'll do a full hop nair and do a full hop descending nair to just kind of go over him, because on like along a horizontal plane, Ganon can't really challenge Bowser Jr. And not only that, Bowser Jr. And that's right, Greg. He does, like, for instance, like a grab from Bowser Jr. at low percent, that's like 60 to 70%. And Bowser Jr. also really excels at gimping Ganon because he has so much latitude off stage that it's just like he can go really deep. And if he doesn't hit you at like a really advantageous angle, like a 45-degree angle from the stage, then it's just like if you have to recover low, Bowser Jr. is going to nab you. But again, Bowser Jr. does have difficulty dealing with some of Ganon's stuff, and if Ganon gets some momentum, and he can like catch cart and stuff too, he has to really think twice about doing cart, because if he carts through you then jumps away, Ganon can just easily back air him and then it's over. So yeah, Bowser Jr. I would say is just very, very slightly for those reasons out of Ganon's favor. Falcon I'm going to put as a clear disadvantage for Ganon, because and the common thread that's starting to emerge, I think, as was the case with Bowser, is any character that can effectively whiff punish Ganon, low commitment whiff punishing, is really scary for Ganon to deal with. And I think in this game, Falcon is probably less scary to deal with for Ganon than he was in Smash 4. He's still really scary because of because of guaranteed knee setups, and because Ganon's so slow. If you air dodge through anything, like if you like just try to air dodge to avoid a knee, Falcon can just down air you, and that happens. Another player from my region, Browy, he's the inventor of the Browy punch. It's like this technique where you buffer neutral B, a Falcon punch, in such a way that you're like you carry the momentum from your ledge jump and you like go halfway across the stage with a Falcon punch. You can do it with Ganon too. It's really cool. Wait, so my chat? I mean, I agree. My chat, I got a lot of the guys and gals that come into my chat are pretty cool. I'm very lucky to have a cool chat. And yeah, global. Just to go back to Bowser Jr., Nair is horrible off stage against Bowser Jr. It's terrifying. So anyway, Falcon is just really kind of the crux of that matchup. I always feel is like Falcon is just so hard. If Falcon has trouble getting past Nair, but it's just like the momentum swings so violently in any direction. But generally speaking, Falcon benefits tremendously off of tremendously greater than Ganon does off of his momentum, because Ganon, if he hits Falcon can basically, he can reset pretty easily. You really can't pin Falcon down in a meaningful way. Not to mention, off of Air Choke, Falcon is, if I recall, the only character where you literally can't do anything if he get up attacks because it's too fast or something like that. I think it's just the frame data on it, or depending, it might just be the side which he kicks first, because I know some characters like Cloud, because they swing from like left to right, that effectively gives you a much greater frame advantage during Flame Choke because you land on the side they swing second, whereas with Falcon, you land on the side where he kicks first. So, anyway, Falcon's just a scary matchup. Zard, I would say, is probably he's sort of like Bowser. I feel like Zard is like, even though we have like Flame Choke stuff that bodies him, I tend to disagree with Ganon's other Ganons who think that Flame Choke 50-50s really swing a matchup in our favor meaningfully. Flame Choke is already like hard enough to land on a competent player, so like when you have to make a second read in a row and it doesn't always pay off, and sometimes you get punished for making that read, it just doesn't seem that meaningful to me. So even though Zard does get kind of bodied, if the choke lands, like if you successfully get those 2 reads in a row, he's in a bad situation. He's hard to kill, and he generally just has a better neutral than Ganon because one, back air, almost everything Charizard has outranges Ganon just cleanly. So you have to be really lucky to you have to kind of make clever use of angles to get in on Charizard, and make extensive use of Air Choke, because you're usually in that sort of like awkward mid-range where you can't like beat him in an outright contest. So you have to like have that weird aerial burst option with aerial Flame Choke. But Washington, the state of juniors. There is another Werewolf. He is another really great Bowser Jr. I only got to play him because I moved to Idaho 6 months ago, but before that I used to go up to Washington a lot, Central Washington, and Werewolf is like one of the premier Bowser Jr. players. And I played him quite a bit, but that was fairly early on in the meta, so things may have evolved, so I can't really comment on that matchup based on that experience because it's like too remote. Anyway, I love this song, Xenogears. Let's see if I'm not looking at my stream. It's what is it? What's the song called? The Leftovers of the Dream. Shit. The Leftovers of the Dreams of the Brave, or of the Strong. Okay, Leftovers of the Dreams of the Strong. That's right. Okay. Anyway, I digress. I'm gonna start having to like pick the pace up here a little bit because I'm like moving really slowly. Chrom's a nightmare. Because, well, I mean, I probably don't have to tell you guys why, but it's like I defined from the outset, when you have to like perform like really like outlandish predictions to start making things work. Chrom's ability to gimp Ganon is obviously horrible. I can't remember what Chrom's up B is called. I'll just call it Chrom Aether. I know the Fire Emblem people, especially like maybe Riley, Potato Radiance, he's gonna hate me for not knowing that, but he really, Chrom's aerial like drift, his drift is like a recovery in and of itself. So chances of him being so far away where he can't strategically time his up B is remote. So it's like I don't even really consider that a big factor in the matchup. And obviously Nair just cleanly beats everything Ganon does. And really one of the only things you can do against Chrom is Ganon can box with him a little bit, but it's just like between like Dancing Blade and stuff like that, and Fast Fall, Short Hop, Nair, you have to do things like try to poke under, like clip him, like catch his landing on Nair with like micro space down tilts, and it's just like it's if Chrom wins one neutral exchange, it's just like it's so bad. It's so Chrom definitely goes. He's definitely in like the nightmare category for me. Cloud, I would say, this might seem weird, but like Cloud, I would say is a nightmare for Ganon, but that is largely not so. Like Chrom, I think, is a character that there are several factors that make a character either good or bad for Ganon to fight, as is the case with most characters, and I think two of those big things for Ganon are mobility, And when I say mobility, I don't necessarily mean how fast they are. I mean just the sort of angles they create naturally doing what they do that make it really hard for Ganon to hit them. Chrom has to kind of always lean into his stuff. It's hard for him to like just sit there and space things and, you know, poke at you and you know, jab at you. It's really hard for him to do that. He has to lean into everything. So to some degree you can challenge that. With Cloud, it's like if Cloud really doesn't want to get hit by Ganon, he's not going to be. He can poke and camp, and it's really bad. He's not nearly as horrible as he was in Smash 4, but if a Cloud is really determined to not go near you and just keep you out, it can get really, really, really painful to try to even land a single hit on him. And even though any given hit that Cloud lands on you might not be terrible, it's the fact that it's so neutral, is so lopsided in Cloud's favor, in my opinion. So he goes into the nightmare category. Soaring Slash. Okay, cool. Thank you, OT. So let's see. Anyway, Corrin. I know nothing about Corrin in this game, but my gut feeling is that it's like even or slightly in Corrin's favor. That's just basing it off of the fact that Pin was really what the problem was in that matchup in Smash 4, and I know Pin's been nerfed. And not only that, but you kind of, because Ganon is more heavily rewarded in this game, it not only is Pin worse, but now if you screw Pin up, you get punished worse. So I can't really intuitively vision those two, or Corrin being like really that bad for Ganon. So Daisy, Daisy kind of tough. I'm gonna say, you know, this is probably my most controversial placement yet, at least among the Ganons. I'm sure Daisy is a character. Daisy and Peach. Let me see. Okay, there we go. Daisy and Peach are characters that, if they're not played like at a very high level, it can seem like it's a really easy matchup. Like if they're sloppy with their floats, like if they just sit there and try to bait you with float, it's like then you can like do all sorts of call outs. If they're sloppy, you can really pressure them. And I've seen both sides of the coin. There have been Peaches who I just, you know, just took a big hot steamy one on them. But then it's like I played, I think his name's Razzo from SoCal. I played him on Wi-Fi once, and it's like I felt completely helpless. Like his float cancels were so fast. It's like I was like, fuck, man, if I like do anything, I'm gonna get float canceled to death. And it was terrifying. And his movement was so good that I just felt like he could do so many things so non-committally, that like I really just couldn't touch him. Everything I did really, you know, again, just to remind myself and everyone of just, you know, trying to be consistent with my placements here. The common thread going, you know, up or down the matchup spectrum is that the more Ganon has to rely on raw prediction, and the more the ratio of raw prediction to reactability between the two characters is really kind of what the main issue is here. And I feel like Peach and Daisy can just react to everything Ganon does and stay in like a range where they're effective, but Ganon isn't comfortably. And Ganon just really has to go out on a limb on almost everything he does, and he gets punished really, really hard for it. So Pit, I would say, is Pit, I would say, is, and again, this might seem a little weird, Pit and Dark Pit. This might seem weird for me to say that they're like -1 rather than just slightly even, or like slightly beyond or below even. But again, it's just like Pit is one of those characters where if they don't camp, if they don't dedicate themselves to just really playing a very passive game, then it can seem like a much better matchup than it is. But there was a Dark Pit, I can't remember his name. I played him when I was in Australia. He was very good, and I lost to him. And the thing I noticed most was that he played such a safe game that I felt like almost every time I felt like I had him backed into a corner or like should have won the exchange, his hitboxes just always eked out by a little bit over mine, and I always had to just go after him. Like it was just so hard to pin him down, and I just it felt like, you know, I was you know, on a wild goose chase trying to win neutral against him. You know, and I tried to be as creative as I could, but yeah, Twaddle, I'm gonna upload this to YouTube. I think anyway. So yeah, but right now, again, Pit maybe is one of the harder ones for me to justify. I'm willing to kind of move Pit down to even or slightly out of Ganon's favor, but my gut feeling is like, you know, it's just, you get to a point where it's like, I've been playing Ganon so long now, and it's like, I really feel like when I played that match against this player from Australia, and again, I wish I could remember his name. If MGK were here, he'd know. But I just felt like, I wasn't really doing anything wrong. He was just doing what he was supposed to do correctly, and I felt like I, again, just had to rely too much on raw prediction to really comfortably say that Pit has a whole lot to worry about in the matchup if he's careful. So Samus and Dark Samus. What if it was MGK? What if what if MGK became Asian for a day? Because I remember that much. The guy who I think was Filipino. What if MGK was Filipino and played Pit? And MGK, the master of disguise. So is the music still going? Oh, neat, it is. Okay. So, Samus I have limited experience with, but I would say I would put Samus at a -1 for Ganon. Maybe I wouldn't say Nightmarish. Nightmarish feels like way too strong. But this is definitely the game where I think Samus is the hardest for Ganon, just because her keep out game has just gotten so much better, and not to mention it's. There was one thing I was going to say that I can't quite remember, but I just think that by virtue of the fact that her projectile game is so much better now than it was in past iterations of the game, that Ganon is still similarly rewarded when he gets in on Samus, even though she still is very hard to keep in disadvantage. So I think that's another thing to consider. She's very hard to keep in disadvantage for Ganon, and it's extraordinarily difficult for Ganon to land a clean lick on her. You know, when you play a Samus, there are certain things certain Samuses will do that make it a really easy matchup. Like, they'll let you touch their shield. When you touch a Samus's shield as Ganon, it's like, that's the gift that keeps on giving. It's like, that's what you want. But some really good Samuses know better than to do that, or if they do that, they'll know better than to grab. They'll up B, because that's kind of how you tell the separate the wheat from the chaff with Samuses, is whether they shield grab or they up B. So if they shield grab, it's like Christmas. So anyway, I'm gonna put them in sort of the clear disadvantage for Ganon, but it's a matchup that if Ganon wins it, I'm not going to be all that surprised. Diddy, I'm gonna go ahead and put Diddy in the. I want to put Diddy in like the Nightmarish. And Vanon's right too, because the ability to charge in midair means that like Ganon really he loses ground when he puts Samus into disadvantage, and she can like circle camp him more effectively. Because charge shot on the ground in this game, it's her since forward air is effectively better now, and her missiles are better. It's like, and Nair is definitely a threat neutral for Ganon. And because of those things, it's like you really want to be careful about just jumping over charge shot. So yeah, and dash attack is, oh god, dash attack's hella annoying in this game. I hate it so much. It's so hard to punish. I hate Samus' dash attack as Ganon. But the nice thing is, like, if they're like really, because some Samuses will be like really dash attack happy, and that's all they'll do. So you just sit there, turtle up, hold shield, and wait for it. But the good Samuses will recognize that, and you know. Yeah, it's from at the beginning of the stream, like I was saying, Greg, it's more just like, because my definition of winning is or losing basically is contingent upon how much do you have to predict? Like the prediction versus reaction ratio, like, you know, it's sort of like a statistical variance question. So like, I really don't feel like there's ever a time where Ganon has something that's just guaranteed to work consistently. He always ultimately has to guess. And to me, that never like that's never like a winning formula. So it's really hard for me to say he wins against very many people or characters, just because like, if he has to guess against these characters and ultimately those guesses are predicated on someone kind of being afraid of him, which isn't a real thing, then it's like, it's really hard to say that he wins. Like and I say this like I juxtapose my experience as Ganon against my recent experience as the Belmonts. And it's like, winning as the Belmonts, it feels so much easier. I have to work so much less. But I've played Ganon for 10 years, and it's like as the Belmonts, I can tell when I'm at an advantage. I can tell when someone has to come to me. I can tell when the ball is in someone's court. As Ganon, I never really feel like the ball is in the other person's court. I always feel like it's in my court. And I've just never really gotten a strong, like, I win this vibe. Like, I've always felt like I had to be one step of the person I was playing in order to win as Ganon, and I don't feel that way as the Belmonts. I feel as the Belmonts, I just sort of need to do the right things at the right time. Like, there's a flow chart to winning certain matchups as them. I don't think there's a flow chart to winning certain matchups as Ganon. Also, sorry if anyone subbed to me and I haven't thanked you. Thank you very much. I don't have any way to hear what's going on my computer right now, so if you have subbed to me or followed, thank you very much. I appreciate you. So, and again, forgive me. I feel really bad when someone subs and I miss it, because that's like a big vote of confidence. Also, good song for you Tales of Symphonia fans. Anyway, so DK I feel like wins the matchup pretty clearly, but it's sort of the same deal as Bowser. You know, honestly, actually, I just like totally skipped Diddy. Okay, DK's gonna have to wait a sec. So, Diddy, I want to put in Nightmarish, but he just doesn't have the KO or gimping potential to really invalidate Ganon in the same way the other characters in the Nightmarish category do. He's extremely annoying. Being small basically means that his options to approach and basically do anything are really limited. Diddy basically controls the ground with Banana. May as well be a huge wall. So, you know, I guess it's kind of just straightforward that Ganon, again, has to do a lot of predicting, but against Diddy, he can sort of like safely do that predicting. He has a lot of room to make mistakes against Diddy. Whereas, by contrast, that is the nature of what makes the Peach matchup a pain in the ass, but if you commit to a read against Peach, that's really bad. Like, you get punished hard for it, and you only have so much allowance to take that risk. Whereas with Diddy, you have a lot of room to make that risk. Anyway, DK, I think, is... I want to say... For the most part, most of me wants to say even or slightly out of Ganon's favor, but I feel like DK does solidly win the matchup because... One, because cargo throw, even if you are a god at mashing, it still puts you in such a horrible position off stage. And back air is just... DK's back air can really just... DK, I think, this is basically a Ganon ditto, except where the other Ganon can just delete your stocks way easier than you can delete theirs. And so that being said, I fear playing DK players because I never really feel like I'm able to... I never pose the same threat to them as they do to me. And the reason why Bowser, I don't think, is as bad as DK is because against Bowser, I think Ganon has an ability to carry his momentum farther, and I think that Bowser is, in general, much easier to kill than DK because of higher success rate after choke follow-ups and things like that. DK, you know, he's harder to catch off of techs and stuff like that. So, anyway. Dr. Mario, it's a Christmas miracle, or maybe a New Year's miracle. I would say, I would actually say, I think that Ganon might slightly win the Dr. Mario matchup. I feel like Dr. Mario does not have the mobility. So, Dr. Mario, I feel like, lacks both the mobility, he lacks the appropriate punish game and the mobility or the disjoint rather, the disjoint and the mobility and the punish game to really make anything work against Ganon in a meaningful way. Ganon, there is almost never a positive trade for Dr. Mario, I don't feel. I feel like Nair really is just against the character, like with. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Before I proceed, if you guys can fact check me on this, isn't Mario's air drift or airspeed better than Dr. Mario's? I feel like that is the case. So before I go on, I'm gonna just kind of hedge my bets on saying anything before I'm certain of it. Okay, and hi, Istar. So in Mario's case, where his air drift is better, he can find creative ways around Ganon's Nair. And that's sort of like the thing with in a character like Joker. Joker has a hard time in terms of hitboxes contending with Ganon's Nair, but he's so mobile he can just jump over everything Ganon does. Same is true of Mario. With Dr. Mario, he doesn't have the mobility to get over Ganon. So again, the whole reaction versus prediction dynamic, Ganon can easily react to any entries Dr. Mario tries to make, and I really don't feel like anytime Ganon makes something happen to Dr. Mario, it's infinitely worse than what Dr. Mario can do to him. So at best, Dr. Mario can try to play it really safe in micro space back airs, but I really just don't see how the one rare instance where I feel like the perfect combination of attributes lines up for Ganon, such that Ganon really can kind of play his own game and actually use his range. And his own low mobility isn't a huge factor against him. Okay, so I wasn't just imagining it. Thank you, Giggle. That is a huge difference. So I actually think for the first time since Melee, Ganon wins a matchup. So Duck Hunt, I'm going to say, is nightmarish. Let me think about this one. So I really like the Duck Hunt matchup, but again, if Duck Hunt were a larger character, I would put him one tier below. But because he's so small, Ganon has to approach him horizontally. He can't approach vertically. None of his hitboxes will hit him unless you want to just go, balls deep and try to down air his shield. If you want to be the divine wind and just try to down air Duck Hunt shield from above, just be kamikaze him, then it's just you do you, bro. But it's what's up, Fire? And I haven't gotten to Brawler yet, don't worry. So yeah, Duck Hunt is just Duck Hunt can really make huge conversions, and I feel like Ganon is big enough that Duck Hunt really can react to most of what he does, and it's just like with any zoner against a heavy, it's really easy to get those grab mix-ups and stuff like that as Duck Hunt, and Can especially. Can is too difficult for Ganon to deal with. It's if you try to punt Can away, chances are good that he's too big, alright? He's too big. Even if you kick Can and it starts bouncing back towards Duck Hunt, you're still too big. It's Can is still protecting him. It's just now Can has become a defensive rather than an offensive tool. Because again, it's Ganon just can't feasibly get over Can. So Ganon has to make several reads in a row to make it work, and the reason it's not a basically impossible matchup is one, because Duck Hunt does have to work quite a bit to kill Ganon, but at the same time the odds of Duck Hunt has to make 3 to 4 mistakes successively for Ganon to get in, and Ganon is usually handsomely rewarded because, as far as I know, jab, maybe F tilt are guaranteed on tech in. So Duck Hunt and most of Ganon's really big meteor moves hit on a correct read on tech. But again, that's not really something I'd base a matchup ratio off of, just random guessing. But that being said, Duck Hunt does suffer off stage against Ganon, and Duck Hunt can't really do much to Ganon off stage himself. So, yeah, I kind of feel like Duck Hunt he's kind of in this quantum superposition between these two, I feel. But if I had to err on either side, it would be like he's sort of like one of those nightmare matchups. Anger bonding time. I love Ganon anger bonding time. And I kind of agree with you, Lord. I think that Duck Hunt can kill us on generally more easily than we can kill him, because again, it's like a matter of raw kill power doesn't mean much if you can't connect into stuff. Like, you know, you have characters like Joker who, you know, the designers probably think, okay, well, or my usual analogy is like, you know, good parts, you need to have a good system. There's the difference between good parts and a good system. Joker is a functional system. He has a bunch of good parts that all work well together to make a great whole. Ganon is a bunch of really amazing parts that don't function well together, and so it's just like none of those really count for much if you can't reliably put the other character in a situation, short of making, again, tons of predictions, where they, you know, are obliged to just kind of walk into your stuff. Anyway. So, anyway, did I already, where did I, okay, so, Falco, don't have much experience against Falco, but I feel like maybe it's, even or slightly out of Ganon's favor. Yeah, I'm good. Oh, nah, Falco's a tough one. I'm gonna play it safe. I'm gonna play it optimistically and say he's, because I know Falco has a nightmarishly strong combo game, and well, okay, yeah, I don't know. What's the survey say? What do you guys think? I'll defer to my fellow Ganons on this one because I'm genuinely unsure. I know he fits within like the clear disadvantage or even or slightly out of Ganon's favor, but I'm having a real hard time. It's a clear disadvantage. Okay, I'll trust you guys on that one. I'll trust you on that one because I really have no concept of what that matchup's like. Very, very little. So Fox, I think, is again, Fox is sort of a matchup. I certainly have more experience against him than I do Falco, but I would say that this is, I almost might say this is perfectly even. Let me really think about this for a sec. So I'm just gonna put him in even or slightly, just for a moment while I like mull this over. So Fox really has trouble. He has a high jump, but he has kind of like, if I recall, like relatively bad airspeed. So he has a hard time jumping over Ganon. And that being said, if he can't really jump over his nair that well, and his hitboxes just absolutely cannot contend with him, but he can whiff punish really well. But that being said, I'm also thinking like Fox cannot like gimp Ganon. He absolutely cannot. And Fox has a really hard time securing kills against Ganon, especially on stages with high vertical ceilings. So it's like I feel like the Fox overwhelmingly wins neutral in terms of like being able to whiff punish and get combo strings going, but it's just like because of Fox's inability to really get out of bad situations against Ganon, because he can't just like jump over him for free, I feel like Ganon excels at pinning him to the corner. And not to mention Ganon is much better off stage against Fox than Fox is against Ganon. So that being said, I really do want to say that Fox is like I'm gonna say it's slightly in Fox's favor, just because again I feel like in Fox's case, if Fox plays it safely, he doesn't really have to do a lot of predicting. Ganon kind of does. Ganon, if you're in like a tense situation against Fox, generally Ganon can kind of just like spam nair and he'll be okay in the matchup. But I mean, I feel like Fox just sort of does have the edge. So that's one of my less confident placements. So this one is basically impossible. The Ganon Ditto is like, I don't know. You know what? Here we'll save that. That's like some deep philosophical like material. So I'll save that one for later. So sorry guys, let me make sure I'm not So Punk, again, this is like Fox is easily one of my like less confident placements, but I just feel like he is really stressful to play against, but just the way I'm playing it out in my head, I don't know. So that's, like I said, that's one of my less confident placings. Let's see. Who did I just put? I just put someone in here that like, or did I? Okay, never mind. Greninja is. I'm gonna put Greninja in Nightmarish. Greninja is similar to. Greninja is just too mobile. He can. The common thread so far has been characters that I feel like Ganon can pin effectively. Thereby, you know, it's just like if you can pin them with Nair and really push them into certain situations with Nair, then he'll be fine. But Greninja is not only really good at whiff punishing, he is so mobile and has such a high jump, and he's so low to the ground, he is virtually impossible to hit. He really has no reason to respect any of Ganon's like positioning tools. He can stay out of effective range while also being in range to whiff punish you really easily, and he can gimp Ganon really easily. So again, it's like he's constantly so agile that I feel like Ganon has to perform like third order reads to really do anything against him. The one exception is Greninjas will tend to approach, they'll try to cross you up with Nair, and if you're I guess judicious about when to use Nair instead of just spamming it, like you do fade back Nairs instead of advancing Nairs, then as he comes in that arc to kind of cross you up with Nair, then I feel like Nair can kind of be a really useful tool then. But that is sort of predicated on the Greninja coming to you. So that's an effective strategy if the Greninja is willing to come to you. But if not, I feel like, I don't know, if Greninja really plays it campy and doesn't approach you, or at least plays passively, then Ganon just has to make a lot of, again, really hard reads to make anything work. So, anyway. Hero, I actually... So, yeah, I would say I've got it, because Pow, the Pac-Man of... the Pac-Man of Pow fame, the Pow of Pac-Man fame. He now uses Hero a lot. Hero... I would say Hero, like, slightly wins. Or it's slightly out of Ganon's favor just because Hero is such a strong zoner for the most part. But it's just like Hero's also really slow, and if Ganon pins him to a corner, there's not really a whole lot he can do. So I think Hero relies almost solely on his zoning tools. But it's also the fact that I don't know. I feel like enough of even if Hero top decks, I feel like enough of his stuff is like serves a functionally similar purpose. That it's just like he can keep Ganon at a range fairly easily. And I'm trying to think of any situations where Ganon really has to like perform hard guesses. I know for one, Hero's tech roll is too long for anything Ganon does to hit it, so that's kind of bad. But you know, I might have to say that that's like perfectly even, because I really don't feel like that Hero's zoning tools are really strong enough to justify the disparity and payoff that Ganon gets when he actually gets in. Yeah, DLC tech roll. So it's like every time DLC comes out, the primary objective of DLC is to spite Ganon main. Secondary purpose is to please fans of the respective series. Oh wow, there's like 4 heroes. It's a little, a little silly. Ice Climbers, I honestly know nothing about. I've never played one. I would say, if it's anything like Brawl, I'm just gonna say it's basically impossible, but I know that's not the case. So I'm just gonna spin the Verminubis intuition wheel on this and say that it's a disadvantage, just because I know desyncing can still be a threat, but I also know that with Ganon's like mega reward now, and the fact that like Nana, like having some kind of like puppet like Nana or something, having them extend Ganon's hitboxes can be like really deadly. Okay, let's see. Ike. Potato of Radiance is probably the most recent Ike I fought, and that was quite a while ago, so I don't have... I want to say that this is probably only very slightly in Ike's favor because, you know, as people predicted, Ike is very parryable, and in Ganon's case, Ike is at least tall enough that if Ganon successfully parries something he does, like a nair or something like that, basically any landing option he has, then it's really rough for Ike, and not to mention that Ganon can edgeguard Ike pretty hard, as well as, unlike Chrom, where he has the drift to back up his bad up B, Ike does not. So Ike is more frequently put in situations where his stocks can be deleted. So that being said, I do think that... Actually, this is hard. I would actually say that Ike is probably a clear disadvantage for Ganon, just because now that I think about it a little more, back when I used to like play Potato in the chat, and just from the Ikes I've played, it's like even though you can parry his stuff, it's really difficult to, and it's like in order to challenge Ike's, in order to challenge Ragnell, you have to be like really on point, and you have to be really on point, and not to mention he can convert off of Ragnell a lot better than you can convert off of any of your stuff. And I think that it's one of those situations where I don't think the prediction to reactability ratio is necessarily lopsided. I think that Ike basically just does to Ganon what Ganon does to Ike, except worse. But again, as the stream goes on, I may change my mind and switch him back to slightly out of Ganon's favor. So Incineroar, I would say, is basically sort of the same thing like with Ike, same principle. Can do to Ganon worse than Incineroar can do, or than Ganon can do to Incineroar. Mostly because Incineroar has a more reliable command grab, and well, you know, I might say Incineroar is even, unless any of you guys can advise me otherwise, because again, I don't really have loads of Incineroar experience. But I feel like they have to predict, the ratio of prediction is like fairly even, but like I want to say that Incineroar is just able to land things with slightly more ease, because for instance, well, no, so like Global saying, I think that's... I kind of agree. Like, Incineroar is a slightly better Ganon, and I think the matchup sort of plays out that way. I'm trying to think of specific examples where Incineroar just sort of outclasses Ganon. I think Incineroar's... I think Alolan Whip is like a serious problem in the matchup, just like intuitively. I can't really back that up, but I feel like it's a problem, or it has been in the Incineroars I've played. And... I don't know, I feel like Incineroar's hitboxes are pretty good. Like, he can contend with Ganon in neutral pretty well. And I feel like Incineroar has a more consistent kill condition than Ganon. Yeah, so, yeah, and like Potato saying he can kill you at 0 without B. Yeah, that's a career ender. That's no good when that happens. Hasn't happened to me yet, but I guarantee it will. So anyway, Incineroar's not that interesting, just because he's a very interesting character. Just not that interesting for me to analyze, because I really don't have that much of a basis to analyze him. Inkling is a nightmare. So Inkling's back air, so a combination of the disjoint on her back air, or his or her back air, along with the mobility, Inklings can almost win the matchup entirely by spacing you out with back air. Again, Ganon has to go out of his way to get around back air, like jump clean over Inkling. And, you know, I don't have to tell you guys, you all are presumably have an IQ above the single digits, which is about all you need to see that Ganon goes off stage against Inkling, it's basically over. Ganon does not even want to attempt to edgeguard Inkling because of the stupid hitbox at the beginning of up B. It's another case of Inkling just being so mobile that you really can't pin them down, and just Inkling, every time Inkling gets a convert, especially on stages with platforms, Inklings can convert so heavily off of up throw that it's just like they'll do like, what is it, like nair and then run off platform to forward air, and it's like, and then once you're off stage, it's just like a mad scramble to get back. It's like you basically have to mix up high and low recoveries. It's, oh god, I hate that matchup. There's a really good Inkling player in my region named Suop, and there's another pretty good one named Kiwi. Though Suop is like more in line with what I would say like makes the matchup troublesome, because Kiwi, the player in my region, the other Inkling player, just sort of tends to camp me out. Suop is more confrontational and tends to mix me up quite a bit more. So I think Inkling is definitely a nightmare matchup. I would not want to come across an Inkling in bracket. So Isabelle, I would say. So I don't know. I can't remember what her new buffs really conferred to her, but she's definitely kind of in this region, perfectly even or just slightly out of Ganon's favor. Her ability to gimp Ganon is actually really not that great if Ganon saves his double jump, and her ability to... What song is playing? Oh, this is a great song, by the way, Terranigma. Which, as you can see with my fancy UI down below, I'm so advanced. So Isabelle, I feel like really she kind of dominates neutral and can lay some really nasty traps for Ganon, but it's like she dies so easily, and it's like I think so they improved her roll, which actually might, because I was gonna say her roll is so bad that Ganon can put her in such horrible situations consistently, and that's important. Ganon can put a lot of characters in horrible situations, but he gets very inconsistent payoff. With Isabelle, I feel like he gets, because of her formerly bad roll, he got very consistent payoff for putting her in situations that were not really that hard to get her into in the first place. But that being said, you know, this is one of those situations where I feel like if I went and played like Kept, I feel like my tune would change. So even though like my first personal experience tells me to say this is like perfectly even, and I did do that Isabelle crew battle, or like Ganon Gauntlet, where I fought some of the top Isabelles, and to be fair, it was on Wi-Fi, and I did end up winning that. But you know, by their own admission, none of the, you know, no one like Kept was there, and I really feel like if I were to play Kept, I would start to see that maybe Slingshot is, and maybe they're more elaborate traps that maybe I haven't seen yet. So like, from experience, I want to say it's totally even, but my reasonable side wants to say that Isabelle wins just very slightly. Ivysaur. I don't like Ivysaur. Ivysaur's a nightmare. Not impossible, but I would say Ivysaur is not quite a nightmare. He's like sort of in this middle ground, because obviously, more than anything, the reason Ivysaur terrifies me is because, one, he just has such a profound capability to delete stocks with down air, and he can juggle Ganon for like just so easily. But between up air and vine whip, it's just going up against Ivysaur so stressful and terrifying. And I feel like, well, I don't feel like, I know that Ivysaur's forward air, between Razor Leaf, forward air, back air, Ivysaur really just doesn't, Ganon has to do quite a bit of predicting to get past all of that. Like, for instance, if you're in a situation against Donkey Kong where you like hit their shield and they're facing, their butts facing you, all Donkey Kong can do is add a shield. He can either roll, jump, or like add a shield back air. Ivysaur can fade away back air. Ganon can't really do anything about that. So again, that's that sort of reactability thing. He can basically do the same option over and over in that same situation where Ganon might otherwise get a lot of payoff and be safe. So he can back air away, convert off of Razor Leafs fairly easily. So I feel like the amount that Ganon has to like really rely on his prediction, and the amount that he actually, the payoff, the consistency of that payoff is pretty small, but I don't feel like he's quite at the level. I feel like mobility plays a big factor in whether or not a character can qualify as a nightmare for Ganon, and Ivysaur just doesn't have that mobility. He has the dumb hitboxes, but not the mobility. Yeah. So Log, you think Ganon Peach is even? That is one where I will confidently say I disagree. Because like there have been ones where I was willing to be more open. Like Fox is one of them. Fox I'm just totally unsure of. But Peach, I really feel like Peach is, again, like I was saying before, one of those characters where it's just like, unless the matchup, and it's similar with like Villager, for instance. I feel like Villager is an example of a matchup where it's like you play the right Villager and you think to yourself, oh, this isn't so bad. But if you play the other right Villager, I guess the wrong Villager, more appropriately perhaps, you know, you'll quickly see that it's like, wow, this is legitimately like, I would rather be in literal hell than be here right now. And so I kind of feel like Peach is one of those matchups where it's like, because I agree, like 99% of the Peaches I've played have been easy wins, but the 1% I've played, his name was Razo again, and there was like one other one I played on Wi-Fi where it was just, and again, Wi-Fi might have something to do with it, but I don't feel like it has too much to do with it. I really feel like Peach's mobility and the combination of mobility and punish game and ability to whiff punish is just like so out of this world that either, you know, Ganon has to like get so many successive, not only successful first order reads, but he also has to get reads off those reads to make anything happen. And if he fails, then it's just like lights out. So, so you fought Razo Ishtar? Yeah, he was really good. I was very impressed. So anyway, Joker. Oh God. Joker is to me the ultimate equivalent of Joker is to Ganon in Ultimate as Bayonetta was to Ganon in Smash 4. I hate Joker. I'm just hardline gonna say it is basically impossible. Joker, like I was saying earlier, has that property where it's like his movement is just so where he can't contend with Ganon like hitbox for hitbox unless Arsene's out. But he can jump over you so easily. He can whiff punish you so easily. He's just so hard to hit. He can, oh God, Gun. Fucking Gun, dude. Oh God. Gun is just such, I hate that move so much. He basically has no disadvantage against Ganon, and that's not unique to Ganon. That applies to a lot of characters. You know. So Twist, I would say to some degree that's correct. Because Ganon can, just like with Greninja, Ganon can kind of do fade back nairs to kind of contest those jump in like nairs and stuff like that. But it's also the fact that Joker gets Arsene so reliably against Ganon, and that, you know, I don't want to use Rebel's Guard as like, you know, something that's inconsistent like that, you know, basically something they have to guess on. But it's just like between both having Rebel's Guard and just building Arsene naturally, Ganon cannot contend with Arsene. He just cannot. It's that is really what makes that matchup horrible for me, is that Joker without Arsene, I feel like I can contest him air tear. It's difficult, and I have to be extremely patient and very judicious about where, and very selective about where I choose to pick fights with Joker. But and it also doesn't help that Joker can just like dash attack right through Ganon's nair for some reason. But I digress. But like Joker with Arsene, his hitboxes just outclass Ganon. If Ganon goes off stage against Arsene, it's over. And that's the thing, again, he gets it so frequently that it's just, I feel like it's not even, it's like Joker is more often has Arsene out against Ganon than he does just, you know, Ren or whatever. He's more often Arsene than he is Ren. And so that really is the most troublesome aspect of that matchup for me, is the fact that one, Joker can just get good conversions against Ganon because he's so big, and those conversions are just like, just like getting, even just things like dash attack. Joker can be really, and that's the thing too, is that sort of as I've mentioned before, where was I going with that? My flight just took off. One of the things that Ganon has historically struggled with, which is why you can go up against like a mid-level Joker and still struggle as a high-level Ganon, isn't even necessarily because Joker does things that outright body Ganon at a mid-level, but because a lot of what Joker does is so safe and is so erratic that Ganon can't really punish a lot of it. You have to be very prescient. There has to be a very fine degree of prescience on the Ganon's part in that matchup, even against mid-level Jokers, because they can basically do whatever they want, and it's really hard for Ganon to do anything about that. So what might qualify as a mistake against any other character as Joker, Ganon can't. That's not an actionable mistake for Ganon. Like MGK just pointed out, Arsene is just BS. So Puff is terrifying. I'm gonna say that Puff is like a pretty clear disadvantage for Ganon, I would say. And I say that because I think there's like the two top Puff players in the world, as far as I know, are Specklar from SoCal and not necessarily in this order, Specklar and Bass from Arizona. And I've played Specklar, and I was able... Again, it's like one of those matchups where it's like, if a Jigglypuff just plays in a certain way, it can seem sort of like, oh yeah, well, it's basically easy, just don't let Puff get you off stage. But Puff, the way Specklar played the matchup is just like, I found it so incredibly stressful to challenge anything he did. Like, even just Nair felt unsafe, and basically what I had to do is I had to hide under platforms and tried to down tilt him as he tried to come in and forward air me, because I felt like everything else I tried to do was just unsafe. Like basically if I threw out a Nair, I would be giving up stage positioning, and that's horrible against Puff, because if you don't stay at least close to center stage, you put yourself in a horrible situation, because she can put up a wall in front of you. And it's just really difficult to deal with if they're like crossing you up and stuff. Also, yeah, dude, man, it is now officially 12 a.m. on the East Coast. So, and I'm sure I think for Gagel, who's in Japan, it's been the New Year for quite a bit longer than that. So happy New Year, guys. Like Greg said, it's like Puff is so innocuous. You would think like, oh, it's just Puff, and then you fight a good one. And that's pretty much the totality of what you think. You're just like, oh, yeah, you're like embarrassed because you just got pooped on by a Puff. So Puff is like, it can swing like in and out of Puff's favor, but again, I feel like Ganon, you literally, there's no room to make mistakes in that matchup. There just aren't. And if Puff is committed to playing relatively safe and knows the effective ranges Puff can stay in without like getting clipped by Nair or anything like that, Ganon's gonna have a really hard time like pinning Puff down. There are very few situations where Ganon can get a really clean hit on Puff. Most of the time neutral is spent in like a stalemate, but you hit Puff as Ganon with Nair, and that's about all against a good Puff. That is really about all you're going to hit a good Puff with is Nair. You hit Puff with Nair, things just reset. Puff hits you with forward air, and it's like you're getting, you're getting carried downtown, baby. You're gonna go places you don't want to go. So yeah, I feel like that matchup is pretty bad. Maybe not pretty bad, but it's bad enough. So yeah, Gagel's already, he's like full day ahead of us. So Ken, I'm not too sure about. I haven't played too many Kens. I played Hades for my region a few times, but like, I don't know. I feel like Ken maybe... Intuitively, I feel like Ken slightly wins. Ganon can wall him out super hard. There's no doubt about that. I can't really justify that placement at this point. That's what I feel. I feel like Ken... It's either even or Ken slightly wins. I feel like Ken gets kills on Ganon a lot more easily, and that Ganon kind of has to run away from Ken constantly. Like Ken is one of the rare characters where he can actually perform competent rushdown on Ganon, and Ganon can't really do too much about it. And Ganon has to be really careful. This note has nothing to do with the matchup because, I mean, ignorance or making wrong moves ideally should not factor into a matchup ratio. But you do have to be really careful to not really use any aerials against Ken but Nair, because if they focus, then it's just like you're going to get focus attacked. DDD, I would say, is... I would say that's a very slight win for DDD, mostly because DDD's edge guarding is deadly. I can't really think of any situations where... we're as strong against DDD as DDD is against us on the ledge, because if we're put on the ledge against D3... We can up air his Gordos away, but that doesn't... Well, and like OT saying, it's just like against forward air off stage, you can recover low, but like, you know, generally speaking, you know, it's if a DDD really wants to go ham on you off stage, it can be really scary. And I'm pretty sure Nair will like beat it off stage and stuff like that. But like the scariest part of that matchup for me is the fact that basically DDD's ledge trapping, and the fact that like it is surprisingly difficult to get in on DDD. The DDDs I've played, I'm gonna like have nightmares tonight where it's just I keep hearing DDD on loop. I've said it so many times. But I've played like Girthquake. I've played Big D. Who else have I played? Big D, Girthquake. So I've played a lot of the top DDDs. And I think like the common thread that made the matchup feel like difficult for me was just the thing that's coming to me most readily right now is, and this is especially true on platform stages. Don't take DDD to platform stages. But if DDD kind of like holds his ground between the ledge guarding and the fact that he can like counter poke you really easily with forward tilt, it doesn't buy him a lot of mileage, but it does make it exceptionally hard to get in on him. So I feel like, yeah, it feels really even, but like I never really feel like I have the upper hand against DDD. Oh god, I said it again. So K Rool, I would say, so this one is going to be again mostly in ignorance because I have virtually no K Rool experience. I really have no idea what K Rool is genuinely capable of, but I want to say that it's even. Mostly because I can't think of any situation, because Ganon really does seem like he dominates neutral. Like I know, like there are people I feel like people do trivialize Cannonball or Blunderbuss and Crown. Like they say like, oh, well, just it's really easy to get past. As Ganon, I think K Rool's really good K Rools are like clever enough that it's maybe not so easy to get past those. They're maybe not quite as garbage moves as some people make them out to be, but obviously Ganon just completely destroys K Rool in advantage. If he can break his belly armor so easily. And I really can't find a point where I feel like K Rool and Ganon, I feel like they have to make equally risky predictions to get the upper hand on the other. The only place where I might think K Rool has the upper hand is he has a slightly better ability to gimp Ganon, and he does have guaranteed kills on Ganon, whereas Ganon cannot guarantee really anything off of K Rool. But that being said, K Rool should probably do a little pant shitting at the ledge against Ganon, because he can't really do much against up B. Like if you just sit there and wait for him to like pick an option off of the ledge, it's really hard for him to deal with up B. So that one I'm gonna say is like dead even. And short hop Crown, so that's one thing. Most people think that like K Rools are just gonna sit on the ground, but if they short hop it, it's like Ganon neither can jump over it, nor can it's like it occupies the perfect space to just like negate everything he can do. So yeah, so for now I think K Rool is pretty much dead even. And I will say the same for Kirby, because Kirby's another character where I feel like I fought a lot of the top representatives in the one of those crew battles I did. and I fought I think RK is one of the top Kirby's, and I fought him. And there were a few others, and if any of you guys are here, please forgive me. I can't remember everyone who I played, but I played a lot of really good Kirby's, and I feel like Kirby, Kirby. You know what? I'll let you guys use your imagination for that one. I feel like Kirby is just pretty much dead even with Ganon. Kirby has some pretty nasty like offstage shenanigans, but like Kirby really can't do much against Ganon on stage. It's like Nair really does make life extremely difficult for Kirby, and like Dr. Mario, and I might even say Ganon wins against Kirby. So I'll leave it where it is for now, though. I feel like between Kirby does have the maneuverability to kind of contend with Ganon in neutral with his aerials, and the ability to like make him sweat off stage. But generally speaking, I think the matchup really does reduce so finely to just like Flame Choke and Nair mix-ups, and that Kirby is just I guess he's in situations where he's not in the air quite so much, as is the case with Puff, where choke is like an achievable thing, and you do get decent mileage off of it. So I can't really think of anything that Kirby does that really just makes me think like, man, I have to really go out on a limb to make something work, so much as I just have to play it safe and just kind of exercise my strong options in my strong areas, and just kind of be aware of what Kirby can do to me so I don't get janked out off stage. And I think that's true, Lord. I think Kirby can be very campy, and that was my experience with the Kirbys that I played. Not to say that they were campy, and not to mention it's like when you play campy, I don't necessarily connote that with bad or negative. Just a very defensive style of play, and it's enough to piss you off a little bit. So yeah, they can definitely try our patience a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to pick up the pace here a little bit and try not to, like, let you guys go off and enjoy the rest of your New Year's, whatever. So you don't just have to listen to me do this all night. But anyway, so, Link I would say is kind of just, he's like, an example of a character that can actually perform competent rushdown on Ganon, because good Links will not sit there and camp you to death. They will basically, instead of using their tools as keep out mechanisms, they'll use it to just pin your options. They'll strategically place bombs so that you can't do certain things, and then they'll do like a full hop Nair in on your shield, and then like mix you up from there. So that being said, he falls like squarely in the category where like, to get past his projectiles, like so basically his Rune Bomb basically forces you into a situation where you have to like, not only do you have to, it's no longer a decision of if you have to make a kind of, he forces you into a guessy situation. It's no longer, you no longer voluntarily put yourself in that situation. You have to make some kind of guess, or just reset and just give up stage control by running away from the bomb. Or you could do like I do and just pick up the bomb and act like you know what you're doing, and just like, it's like, goddamn, dude, like so many items in this game, you pick them up and it's like you feel like such a G for catching them, and it's like, what the fuck do I do now? And it's like Link's just sitting there like schmoovin', and it's like you got this Rune Bomb and he's like sitting there schmoovin', and it's like, just like, trying to box with you, and you're just like, fuck you, and you just throw the bomb in his face, and it's like slapping him. It's so funny. But that's why throwing bomb at a Rune Bomb back at Link is so funny, because it's just like going up to him, he's like sitting here throwing all these really cool punches, and you just like go up to him and just like, you just slap him on the face a little bit. But anyway, I digress. It's hella funny when that happens. So yeah, Volgan. So the only reason I haven't been playing viewers recently is because I actually sold the game quite a few months ago to focus on music. It's just sort of I didn't sell the game because like I'm quitting the game. I still play the game and go to tournaments almost every other week. But it's just I sold the game to basically make sure I could focus on other things. so that I wasn't like wasting time at home. And I used to do viewer battles, and I will again at a nearby point in the future once I buy the game again. Right now, like I said, I'm just kind of I'm basically trying to build my music portfolio, because eventually I want to start applying to like development studios. So once I get to a point where I feel like I have a satisfactory like portfolio built, and I won't even necessarily get to that point, but like I still want to like do a little bit more stuff till I get to a point where I'm like satisfied and can finally relax at home, and if I have free time, think other thoughts to myself other than you could be spending this time composing instead. So anyway, so yeah, and it's true, like Bomb is a good added shield option, but it's just like most of the time it's just so funny that it's just like I want to sit there and think of like some like super clever way to use the bomb, and I'm just eventually it's like just throw it at him, and just nothing happens. All it does is it's just like what was that movie I saw recently? Oh no, it was like the second Jumanji movie where The Rock is just like punching this dude, and he's just like it's like not even affecting him. And so yeah, anyway, that was my story. Hope you all enjoyed it. So Little Mac, I think is I think it pretty much even. Little Mac can't jump, which makes him Flame Choke bait, and Flame Choke's very effective against him because he has a lot of option coverage potential against it. But obviously Mac is an expert with Punisher, so you have to play the matchup very patiently. And I think the most relevant example, relevant high-level example of this matchup that I know of, and maybe the only one, was I think Rickles fought Gaia from Japan, and Gaia ended up winning because the momentum swing. It was like Rickles had a solid like lead, but then like Gaia got KO punched, and things went downhill from there. But I feel like Mac is like basically even. Maybe Ganon slightly wins. I'm actually willing to say that Ganon slightly wins, but again, I don't want to be saying this in ignorance, because I feel like Mac is one of those characters where it's like you have like this whole class, like 99% of Macs, that play well enough to make you think like, okay, yeah, this matchup's it's a little tricky, but I got this mostly under control. But then you play someone like Gaia, and you just feel like you're seeing a whole new side, a whole new dimension of the match, and it's like, okay, well maybe I need to rethink this. So you think Mac wins, MGK? Well, I mean, like I said, I'm willing to let me think about that one a little more, because that's certainly not a super confident placing, and the same applies to Lucario. I would say, this I hate when if you are a commentator, please just do me a favor. Do not ever say this again. Do not say, oh, well, Lucario's aura doesn't really matter because Ganon kills him early. That is not true. That is not true. Any instance where you say Ganon kills you early, so this doesn't matter, put that from your mind. Ganon killing you early, that is not a given. Snake killing you early is a given because he has an easily achievable win condition. That's consistent and statistically likely to happen because he has antagonistic, like I said in my neutral video, these complementary sequences where it's like the threat of one option funnels you into another option, and it kind of goes into this cycle. Whereas with Ganon doesn't really have that. His win condition is very one-dimensional. So if Lucario wants to play very safe and just hold shield, it's going to be really hard for Ganon to kill Lucario because he's not super light, and once he starts getting up in percent, extreme speed is just like, there's no way in hell you're going to like intercept it because he's going to like flying like big fart circles, and you're never going to be able to catch him. So I don't think that really Ganon's KO potential is really an extenuating factor to Lucario's aura, and I think that Lucario at high percent is much more threatening to Ganon than Ganon is to Lucario. Well, and that's the thing too. Aura Sphere is, I mean, it's slow, obviously, But you know, Lucario does have a fairly he has an effective mix-up where it's like if they're prepared, if you jump over Aura Sphere and you're not careful, he'll just like forward air you or something, or worse, like back air. But that being said, you can't, like, Aura Sphere isn't like Samus's charge shot where it's like it's not fast enough and enough of a threat in neutral where it's just like it still is. But just by the nature of the character, you're more at liberty to jump and move, and it's kind of less likely to hit squarely than Samus's charge shot is. But generally speaking, against Aura Sphere, you just kind of have to close the distance against him. You kind of have to get within reaction distance of Aura Sphere, which is like mid-range. And then from there, you just kind of have to poke your way forward, you know, just kind of like walk forward and kind of... And this was what I did against the current #1 in my region, Mata. For a very short stint, he went Lucario, and that's pretty much the totality of my ultimate Lucario experience. And he would play a very safe game. It took me a long time to kill him each time, and that's generally what I would have to do, is because he would you know, Aura Sphere camp a little bit, and I just kind of had to close the gap as best I could, and you kind of have this thin range where you're like, where you're just at the cusp of reactability to where you can just perform a raw reaction to Aura Sphere coming out, and then you have to close the distance a little bit so that he is no longer in range for Aura Sphere to have time to throw Aura Sphere out. So you just kind of have to slowly close the distance. So that being said, I think Lucario is... I think the fact that Lucario can become so slippery and does have, I think, statistically greater kill potential than Ganon, I think it's slightly in Lucario's favor, but not by much. I'd be willing to put him in like perfectly even. So to go through charging Aura, I'm actually not sure, OT. That's a fine question. Lucas, I think, is just slightly out of Ganon's favor, for obvious reasons. PK Thunder is kind of, whereas with Ness you can just nair it and you're fine. Lucas is really scary off stage. On stage, Ganon pretty cleanly wins, I would say, because whenever Lucas tries to make a play like cross you up with nair, or tries to forward air you, or throw PK Fire, it can be like a bit of a pain in the ass to get in on him. But just because he's floaty and really doesn't, aside from like threats off stage, and Zera is a huge pain in the ass. But these are all things I feel are very manageable for Ganon. Yeah, and again, I feel like Ganon doesn't really have to guess much more than Lucas does, and anything Lucas does that doesn't put him at risk really doesn't set him up for much reward either. So I feel like the ratios are fairly balanced. I just feel like the fact that Lucas can net extremely early stocks with PK Thunder make it a little bit more lopsided, and the fact that like Nair makes it really hard for Ganon to really get in as well as he'd like, because when Lucas is generally, if a Lucas just tries to camp you out, that's like actually easier to deal with than if they like start like using Nair and mixing that in. So Lucina is, I'm gonna say, a nightmare for the same reason as Chrom. It just outboxes Ganon, can gimp him, can go so deep to gimp him. Ganon just basically has to rely on jumping out of his shield to do anything against Lucina within like boxing range, and that opens him up for like parries, and Lucina can just like roll out of range or something. It's like, it's a terrible matchup. There's really not much to say there. Luigi, I would say, has a pretty clear advantage over Ganon just because Plunger is actually a big pain in neutral. Not to mention, say nothing of his huge combo game. Basically, Ganon gets grabbed, he takes 80%. Luigi is surprisingly, like, he has a lot of threats in neutral. Like, Ganon has to really hedge against Luigi in neutral. He has to hesitate because Plunger has such range that like pretty much any grounded option Ganon has gets snuffed by Plunger. And Luigi just has a lot of like really surprising burst options, and surprisingly he can close the distance pretty well with Fireball. it's actually pretty hard to get past Fireball, because anything you do, if you clank with it, well, you effectively lose that exchange. But generally speaking, Luigi does die earlier than Ganon does. Luigi can't really kill Ganon that well unless he gets like a really solid read, or like sure you can. That's the big one. You have to be. Well, maybe that's ultimately what justifies him being in a clear disadvantage for Ganon, is the fact that most Luigis do not punish Ganon the way they should. Like any like a whiz kick, if you whiz kick on Luigi's shield, Ganon should die. Like if you're above 30%, Ganon should die. So basically, you can't use whiz kick and you can't use choke, because spot dots choke, you die. So I would say Luigi's actually a reasonably tough matchup. So Vannon, so I usually just I wiggle the stick. I wiggle the stick and hope I just like that mixes my DI up enough that it screws the Luigi player up. Mario, I would say, is I would say Mario's just slightly does better than Ganon. Mario actually, unlike Dr. Mario, like I was saying earlier, Mario has the ability to get in on Ganon fairly well with like fireballs. You throw a fireball, then nair your shield. And it's also, Mario can low profile with like back air. He has this like really stout parabolic arc that he kind of travels in when he tries to get in. So, but I'm trying to think of really anything that. And Mario can, like, he can't really gimp Ganon that well. Ganon has really great survivability, and that's a big deal in the matchup. So on average, Mario, Ganon outlives Mario significantly. But I feel like Mario just, he can win neutral quite a bit easier than Ganon. And if he combos Ganon, that's a shitload of damage. So, and for that reason, I think Mario does slightly better than Ganon. I think Mario has to guess slightly less, and for what he does win, he is rewarded. You think so? I'm actually surprised to hear that, MGK. And again, like I said, I'm open to these changing, but like, so I think the best Mario I've played, I haven't played any of the top Marios. I've played a top Luigi. I played Elegant, but I don't believe I've played a top. I've played Big D's Mario. But I think that's maybe like the best Mario I've played, along with Easy Peasy, one of the PRs in my region. He's also really good. But for right now, I personally, I can't see anything Mario doing. Like he has the combos, but I feel like he actually is fairly easy to get in on as Ganon. At least easier than Luigi. And not to mention, we can make a lot more mistakes against Mario than we can Luigi. Assuming the Luigi punishes us properly with up B. Yeah. Give me a. Can I get a? Can I get a Verm hurry the fuck up burger? So let's see. So Marth, I'm just gonna go ahead and be lazy and lump Marth in with Lucina. Mega Man, I actually don't think is that hard. I've had a good bit of experience with Mega Man. And I feel like Mega Man has to really Leaf Shield's annoying, but it's like Mega Man really just he nickels and dimes us, and we can make up the distance. We can make up disparities against him so easily. He doesn't really have any way to gimp us reliably. He kind of has to kill us, get raw kills. And generally speaking, I feel like he's particularly susceptible, I find, to like overhead entries. That really kind of is effective at pushing him to the corner. Like pretty much every Mega Man I fought, I found it really easy to push them to the corner. Even if they, short hop lemons, leaf shield, and stuff like that. If you know what's coming against Mega Man, he can mix you up effectively. But I feel like as Ganon, he's fairly easy to push to the corner, and you get a good bit of mileage for winning neutral against him. So I feel like maybe. I'm gonna say just put him up there though, just because I feel like there's something I'm missing about that matchup. Meta Knight I have very little idea about, but I would say that I would put him in clear disadvantage for Ganon. because he's sort of like, for the same reason as DK, extremely effective with Punisher, and he can gimp us fairly easily. So basically those two things alone, I feel like Meta Knight's just really hard to get like a solid grip on, and we have to make a lot of risky guesses to make anything work. But we also don't get punished too hard for for those risky guesses. We have a lot of room to make them. But generally speaking, I think Meta Knight's ability to gimp us, our combo ability, and the fact that he is like can just whiff punish us so easily, kind of puts him at a very clear disadvantage. Mewtwo, I am also going to say, is a -1, or clear disadvantage. You know, he's obviously light, but it's like his hitboxes are so much larger than ours. He has so much more mobility, and let me rethink this maybe. I don't have much Mewtwo experience, but I will say that I feel that just Shadow Ball camping is really strong. If Mewtwo just wants to sit on the other side of the stage and can't and charge Shadow Ball, it's really hard for Ganon to do anything about that. So it kind of the definition of a clear disadvantage being that the ball is in Ganon's court to make the predictions, to make the big plays, and Mewtwo does get quite a bit of mileage off of a good read, or not even a good read, off of a whiff on our part. So, but I mean, again, he is light, and we have some pretty nasty things we can do to him, and he is fairly easy to hit and corner. If we do successfully get in on him, if you throw like a bad Shadow Ball, then it is pretty bad news for him. But generally speaking, I feel like we have to work a lot harder to make that happen, and don't get quite the same payoff as he does, for like getting a Shadow Ball into like a forward air or something. And Tony T? Is that Tony T? It's good to see you, dude. It's been like 9 years since I've seen you. I hope you're doing well, man. Yeah, but you can F-smash his tail. Oh, God. So, for Brawler, so I know Fire can guide me on this. I've only played Fire, and one of the... I believe she's still a local. She graced us with her presence for a little while. Her name was Sori. She was a Meat Brawler player, but I think that's the extent of my... I believe Gagel was a Meat Brawler player as well, but that was like a connection between here and Germany. So is Ghost a Brawler player? I actually didn't know that. But Brawler, I really don't know. I feel like between all, like the matchup can change dramatically depending on the moveset. So I might actually save Brawler. Let me think about that. I'm gonna save all of these guys, just because I do have a decent amount of experience with Sword Fighter, as well as Gunner. Oh wow, I guess Brawler be making moves in silence. Game & Watch, I feel like is. I feel like he pretty solidly wins that. It's Game & Watch is I can't really think of any angle Ganon has over him that requires, again, that isn't born of raw prediction, because between like forward air, back air, pancakes at the ledge, you know, stuff like that, it's like it's really hard to get near and be out of shield, which Ganon basically can't punish because he can't punish Ki. So Game & Watch is tremendously difficult to get in on, and it doesn't feel like he has that bad of a win condition against Ganon. Like, he can kill Ganon pretty easily. So, but that being said, he is light, and there are like choice situations where Ganon can make a good call out. Like one thing I like doing is if they throw a forward air, just calling it out and running under him and just like up airing him, and that's extremely effective. So he does have specific areas of weakness where he is accessible, but they do require a level of prediction. And in general, I feel like Game & Watch really just doesn't need to do much prediction, and as long as he plays it safe in this matchup, the onus is constantly on Ganon to make plays. But Ganon can make several mistakes, and as I've said before, that's probably the common thread everyone's noticing now, is the characters that are in the clear disadvantage, but neither above or below that, are the ones that generally are really hard to get in on, that Ganon has to make a lot of guesses against, but that Ganon can afford to make a lot of So Ness I think is a clear disadvantage. His maneuverability, he never really has a reason to be pinned in the corner against us, and his forward air just so outclasses anything that we can do. And generally speaking, he can't really gimp us all that well, and we can gimp him pretty well. But I think he wins neutral a little too hard. And what else was I gonna say? It's, like, especially on platforms, like Ness is terrifying on platforms between like the side magnet, like stall to back airs and stuff like that. It is really hard to pin Ness down. And he can create all these like exotic angles that make it really difficult not only to intercept him, because he'll usually buffer his not like when I say buffer, I mean like put a wall between him, not like literally buffer controls, but he'll buffer pretty much anything he does or any movement option with rising forward air, and that's just like, that is effectively impossible for Ganon to deal with. So again, consistent theme, that puts a layer of prediction between him and Ganon that Ness doesn't really need to predict anything. He just basically needs to be doing that same thing until Ganon does something wrong and opens that up. So let's see, Pac-Man I think is probably, so saying this admittedly in ignorance, I have played POW. I've played quite a few, because, you know, POW again was one of the top Pac-Mans in Smash 4, and I would argue he is still a top Pac-Man in Ultimate, if only he'd travel a little more. And I play as Pac-Man quite a bit, and it's much easier in this game to beat Pac-Man than it was in Smash 4. But that being said, Pac-Man's one of those characters, he's like Puff. It's like, there's so much to him that I feel like your purview of the matchup could just flip on a dime depending on who you play. I feel like if I played T or something, I would sit there and just be like totally like gobsmacked, like I have no idea like what was going on. Like I would. But that being said, the reason I'm willing to not put him higher than this is because Hydrant is a big part of Pac-Man's game plan, and Ganon invalidates Hydrant, like straight up. Just Hydrant is useless against Ganon. And that being said, Pac-Man, where Pac-Man excels the most, I feel, is just creating just neutral mix-ups, because, you know, he'll condition you to shield and then he'll come in and grab you or something, or just cross you up with Nair in close range. But I think like the scariest thing about the Pac-Man matchup as Ganon is his down air. Like his down air is really scary. I do not want to fight against. I do not want to try to challenge Pac-Man off stage. So that being said, we live forever against Pac-Man, but Pac-Man also kind of lives forever against us. So really, I will say my confidence level in this is like a 7 out of 10, because I feel like I have played high level enough Pac-Man that I kind of know fundamentally how it goes. Like I have a good grasp of the matchup in principle, but I'm hedging just a little bit, because if I play like Sinji or T or something, and they pulled out this like wild setup that I just like totally felt like, okay, well this poops on Ganon, you know, I don't want to, you know, I want to hedge a little bit on that. So yeah, he doesn't believe in oh, what's up, Nate? Happy New Year to you as well, man. So yeah, Pal doesn't really use Pac-Man much anymore. He uses he still does pull him out in bracket. He rotates between like Pac-Man, Snake, and Hero. So Palutena is definitely, I'm gonna say that is a solid. I'm gonna say it's a nightmarish matchup, because Palutena is a character like Joker, where we can get our solid licks in on her, and we have definite areas of strength against her, but obviously Nair kind of invalidates us in neutral. We have to contend with Exploding Flame. And I think the biggest part is the fact that Palutena can make a lot of mistakes against Ganon. A lot of our ability, a lot of what she does is so safe that in order to make anything happen, it's not that Palutena herself really just takes a big steamy one on Ganon, but it's the fact that she's simply effective against Ganon, and we're not effective against her really in any way, because we have to basically read well ahead of time. We can't react to really anything she does. there was actually, I'm sure MGK will appreciate this. There was, I think his name was Vane. He was a Palutena player in Australia, and I played him. And he was a fair player. Don't get me wrong. But he was like, I would peg him like textbook, like kind of like mid-level player. And fighting him, I was sweating the whole time. Like, he made so many things that I'm like, if I were another character, you'd be dead 10 times over. But as Ganon, in spite of the fact that I knew it was coming, the line of actionability was so razor thin that it's just like, Palutena can make so many mistakes against Ganon and get away with it, and Ganon really can't. He can afford to make a few mistakes against Palutena, but what qualifies as a mistake against her is very broad, whereas what qualifies as a mistake against Ganon as Palutena is very, like I said, razor thin. So Pichu, I have not actually played a Pichu since, I guess you could say, the Pichu-pocalypse, where the number 2 in my former region goes by Timote. He was a Pichu player, and I would say at the time he was like, textbook mid-level player. He was very good, and he knew the matchup very well. But every time I fought him, it was always a fight for my life. And now, as far as I know, the only thing that's really changed is the fact that he now damages himself more. And maybe did they nerf F-tilt? I can't even remember. So between like I definitely want to say like Pichu. Pichu can, this is like, so the basically impossible category, for those who missed it, is basically, I define it as the extreme of where Ganon has to rely almost exclusively on like high order predictions, like thinking multiple steps ahead. Whereas Pichu can basically react to everything you do and is rewarded copiously for it. You cannot make mistakes in the matchup. You absolutely cannot. And Pichu can just do whatever he wants, basically. He can just push whatever button he wants because he's so small, so quick, and his ledge options against Ganon are just... You have to pick an option against Pikachu, and that's what makes him terrifying, at least as Ganon. You have to pick an option, and basically out of any of the 4 options you can pick on ledge at any given time, Pikachu can occupy or cover 3 of those options. So you basically have to just have a 1-to-1 accuracy ratio with your guesses to get off the ledge against him. And even though Pichu does die very early, Ganon dies at comparably early percents, because if Pikachu back airs him anywhere near the ledge, he's dead. So I would say that Pichu is just that's horrible. Pikachu, almost the exact same thing I just said, except now Pichu has a slightly harder time getting in on Ganon. Pikachu does not. Pikachu's forward air is the devil incarnate. If Ganon if I ever step down from my role as Satan, then Pikachu's forward air is next in line, because Pikachu's forward air cleanly beats everything we do out. Between back air mix-ups off stage, it's just like every time you go off stage, it's a life or death scenario. Honestly, what killed some of my love for the game, like my spirit broke a little bit when this happened. And it's funny, I won this set, but my spirit still broke a little bit, because I was playing one of our local players, Mata, and I had to, I think it was a Game 10 Grand Finals with him, and it lasted for almost an hour. It was my Ganon versus Pikachu. He played so safely and so non-committally, I couldn't do anything but jab him. Like, I have the VODs to prove it. I have the VODs to prove this. It's literally just for an hour me jabbing and occasionally trying to throw out something like a flame choke. And it's like, and if a Pikachu decides to rush you down instead of playing like that, then it's even worse. If they decide to rush you down with quick attack and stuff like that, and use more Thunder Jolt to enter in on you, it's like, then it's a nightmare. Pikachu can react to everything you do, and you have to predict him 3 steps ahead to get any work done. So, yeah. So, yeah. Esam for Satan 2020. So Plant, haven't played too many plants. I would say plant. I want to say like plant is again almost totally guessing here. I would say plant is pretty much perfectly even. He has like, cause you know I kind of made I made a joke post on Twitter a while ago, like about how, you know, if Ganon's like Ganon, the Ganon community, if there's even like one, if we have any kind of like leverage where we can be like, oh, we got to choke. Well, as long as we just read this correctly, then parry this. Then if we do all 6 of these things correctly, all 6 of these highly technical things correctly in sequence without missing a beat, then we can get a grab pummel as a guaranteed a follow-up off of choke. And I kind of made a joke about that with plant, where it's like apparently, or not apparently, factually, we have jab guaranteed. Like if we choke plant, jab's guaranteed. And for me personally, I don't find that to be like a super profound boon in and of itself. What is a good complement to that, though, is the fact that plant is very easy to choke, because, for instance, if he throws poison breath, if we so choose to commit, we can just choke through that, jab him, and then we have stage control. So that is good. And I feel in general, plant doesn't really threaten us too much off stage, and I feel like in this case, choke is like a potent factor in the matchup. Not so potent that we like body plant, but like potent enough that it consistently wins us stage control against the character who does not want to lose stage control. But right, and then you have Patui. And I honestly, like, I did play one plant online a while ago. He had some really brilliant Patui setups off of the Battlefield platforms. It's really great option coverage. But even then, I felt like for every Patui setup he landed on me, I was just, anytime I won neutral, I was able to push him to a corner, and he really just, I felt like at that point, it was easy to get in that situation. But again, I also want to say, like, you have people like Brood who like won that big Japanese tournament with Plant. So this is likely another case where I feel like that's pretty much like fully in ignorance. I have no experience with that matchup. This is all just theoretical. So I'm just going to leave him there for now. So Pokemon Trainer as a whole, I would say, is like a nightmarish matchup, like just straight up. But I feel really, like, honestly, a lot of people say that Squirtle is like the one they would fear the most. I honestly prefer to fight Squirtle because Charizard can kill Ganon, in my opinion, easier than Ganon can kill Charizard. Charizard's terrifying to fight against, and Ivysaur's terrifying to fight against. It's like Squirtle, I'm going to be living for a while. Squirtle's hard to hit, but I can live with that. If he can combo me at low percents, I don't really care. So I think Squirtle is like the least of our concern in that matchup. So Belmonts are really hard to say. This is an interesting thing for me. I would say that Ganon is against like a really proficient Belmont. You know, I still am an up-and-coming Belmont. I would not by any means consider myself to be like a professional level Belmont. But even then, like I feel like even against like a really like top-level Ganon, I would still be able to go like decently even. So that being said, there's a massive skill disparity there. Like, I'm not nearly as skilled as the Belmonts as you have against like a top level Ganon, but I still feel like I'd be able to go either even or win. So I feel like even though the Belmonts are fragile and surprise, so something kind of just a side note, dude, Lord, like seriously, Charizard, I don't get. Like I've learned to trust my instincts on these characters. Like, on paper doesn't mean anything. Charizard is a terrifying character to fight. Like, as anyone. Even the Belmonts, Charizard is a terrifying character. People say that Ganon's back air is strong. It's like, dude, Charizard's, like, not only does it have a wider range of, it has better horizontal application, because he doesn't create a 45-degree angle with the ground, so people don't just fit nicely under his armpit. So it's like a straight line, basically. It's hugely disjointed. It's a little slow, yeah, but I mean, didn't Puppet, like, he pulled, like, the most outstanding comeback against Samsora, or I think it was Samsora, by back airing him at, like, 60, and he won! It was like, God! What was the thing? Shit, where was I? Who was I? Oh, yeah, Belmont's. So, Belmont's, and this is an interesting thing that I've come to appreciate, just like an aspect of, I'm by nature someone who, it's hard, it takes me a while to warm up to get to a point where I'm no longer hesitating. Like, if I've been playing friendlies for a while, I tend to use my friendly time for, like, thinking time, really, like, being deliberate about what I'm doing. And if I try to think too much against the Belmonts, that's when I find the matchup gets significantly harder. If you try to overthink against the Belmonts as Ganon, they have very well-defined areas of basically inefficacy. So, like for instance, if you hang on, their whip won't hit. Nothing they do except Blade Dash will hit Ganon on the ledge. You know, except for Axe. And you can time your jump. So what am I trying to say here? It's complicated because it's really dependent on the exact sequence they use at the ledge. But if they miss space, their holy water, then it's really easy to just roll into the ledge. If they mistime their axe, then you just ledge jump. But generally speaking, if the Belmont is really consistent with angling their whips and not overcommitting, because like what a lot of Belmonts will do, and this is still a bad habit of mine, they'll buffer a short hop angled whip, and that is actually super punishable. That should only ever be used to punish like projectiles or as an out of shield option, never as an approach option like I used to use it as. So if a Belmont does that, that's like curtains for them. But if they're consistent about angling their whips, don't overcommit, and especially on projectiles, because that's one thing that a lot of Belmonts will get caught on, they'll assume that the other person's too scared to challenge Axe, when most people, once they learn that with Axe, you can just like walk under it and punish them for it rather than trying to shield it. So, but that being said, I feel like just being outranged and being stuck at the ledge, even if Ganon doesn't get hit by anything, Ganon is forced to do something, because if Axe is coming down, he can either drop and up air it to cancel it, but I mean, then you're in a regrab situation, which, I mean, even if nothing hits you, you're not open to getting hit with another Axe if you hesitate. So that puts you in a situation where you can't hesitate. So generally speaking, I feel like Belmonts in this case don't really have to read Ganon too much. They just have to apply apply their skill set steadily, and it's basically in the bag. Whereas with Ganon, I think Ganon really has to just rely so much on prediction. But again, consistency, he can make a lot of wrong guesses against Belmonts, because Belmonts do struggle to kill Ganon. So that's why I think they're only like a -1 or clear disadvantage rather than like full-on nightmare. Because I think it's definitely a winnable matchup by all means, but you have to get some good reads and not hesitate on what you do. So Ridley, I would say, is a clear disadvantage for Ganon. And I say that because, one, Ridley murders Ganon off stage. Absolutely. Between Nair, between down air, or is it down B? No, it's well, whatever. So I'm pretty sure it's something. It's something. Ridley, I'm sure. Grick, you probably know what I'm talking about. So Nair's one of them, but there's a local Ridley showed me this really dirty trick with one of his moves where it's just like it spikes Ganon reliably, but it might be some weird up air down air trick. I can't remember. But Ridley outranges Ganon just hard. Ganon is not going to win spacing wars with Ridley. And Ridley, so for instance, if Ridley jumps from the ledge and buffers Nair, everything Ganon does is mostly going to get beat by it. It's like a big orb around him. So yeah, it might be downward. It might be like a downward angled up B, but the way it was like doing it at a certain angle, it like makes it really hard to recover or something. But between getting bodied off stage, outranging Ganon, Ridley has obviously a terrible disadvantage against Ganon, and I think that Ganon can carry his momentum a lot farther against Ridley than Ridley can against Ganon. I think that generally speaking, Ridley, just because of his range, is much more poised to play very safely, and he is very handsomely rewarded for any neutral wins he does get. So I would say that, yeah, Ridley, Ridley kind of fits into the clear disadvantage paradigm, but like with the added kick in the ass of the fact that he can do to Ganon just as badly as Ganon can do to him. So not only does he have the benefits of not having to guess as much as Ganon, he also can basically do to Ganon what Ganon can do to him, but at much less risk. And yeah, so like Ishtar said, Fireball. If you're at Ganon can nair Fireball pretty reliably, and because of the hit lag, it extends Ganon's hitbox for quite a long time. So that usually negates the Fireball. But there are situations where Fireball can totally just like boink your recovery. So yeah, Rob, and we got Dragoomba in here, so I'm sure Dragoomba is actually my closest point of reference, the best Rob I've faced, and closest point of reference for Rob. I think Rob qualifies as a nightmare matchup. He's definitely not impossible, but it's... so playing Dragoomba, the things I always notice is that, sort of in the vein of what I've talked about with these other characters, Rob is able to basically react to whatever Ganon does. Ganon has to make those risky reads to make things work against Rob, and has to kind of work through different layers of projectiles, whereas Rob he has a fairly free disadvantage against Ganon. He doesn't really have a disadvantage against Ganon. Ganon kind of just gets one hit, Rob resets, and so Rob can really carry momentum against Ganon better than Ganon can against Rob, because of like things like down tilt, like out of shield forward air and stuff like that. Whenever I play Dragoomba, he's always just like right on top, like forward airing me out of shield. If he's like down tilting me, if I roll behind him, he can just immediately react to that and pivot and start doing it behind him. So there are a lot of situations where Ganon is sort of like in a no-win circumstance. So the times I really only ever feel like I do well against Dragoomba, or like I barely ever take a game off Dragoomba, but when I do, it's because I'll make like the same reads that I've made. Like I'll get like aerial flame choke on, not only Dragoomba, but like almost every Rob I play multiple times in a match. But what determines whether I win is how beefy a punish I get off of those flame chokes. So if I don't get the correct read off of the aerial flame choke, then the match is most likely going to be a bust. So that's sort of what it centers around, and again, centering around something that is inherently luck-based, that skill can only really diminish so much in the form of option coverage, which you don't really have with aerial flame choke. I would definitely say Rob he's definitely a very tough matchup. So, but like I said, when Rob's like pinned in the corner against Ganon, that's definitely scary. And there are definitely like at mid-range where Rob is out of range for forward air and stuff like that, and gyro's already deployed. Aerial flame choke can be scary, but those are really the main threats against Rob, and I feel like those are like hard situations to achieve against him. So let's see. Robin. So another character, I would say Robin is pretty clear disadvantage for Ganon. I've played a pretty good number. I've actually played, I think, some of the best Robs. I haven't played Jewel yet. I wanted to play him. I was supposed to play him in that Robin crew battle I did. But I've played Dath. I've played Cathark. I've played Marathon in my own region. I've played. There have been other really good ones that I've played. There's one from NorCal, Cabasco, and then another one from Mexico that's really good. I can't remember his name. Yeah, really great, all really great Robs. And I've also played one, I think her name was Athena. I played a really good one named Athena on Wi-Fi a long time ago. And what I find Rob was much more doable in Smash 4 than in this game, because the buffs do I keep saying Robin's hitboxes got make it so that what I used to like to do is jump over, like basically wait for an arc fire or something to come up and preemptively, because the mistake I feel like a lot of Ganons make, and just people make in general against characters like Rob, is they will wait too long to jump. They'll wait until they have a visual confirmation that arc fire has come out. Then they'll try to jump, by which time they can just forward air you. What you have to do is you have to, before you even see the arc fire coming out, that's when you have to jump and either call out their forward air or their arc fire. You have to basically put your active frames out before theirs come out, because theirs come out on their forward air much quicker. So that being said, I feel like Robin. I feel like it's a matter of like Ganon gets so outclassed by Robin's hitboxes and like arc fire traps and stuff like that, and Ganon's really only real recourse is to basically call out an arc fire, jump over it, and hope that they can apply some sort of shield pressure. Because in this game, Robin really is not nearly as gimpable as he or she was in Smash 4, because Elwind is much more versatile, and not to mention it's just like doing drop down nair is not a good idea, because I actually have a clip of Dath smoking me for that. I did a drop down nair, if they hugged the stage, I did a drop down nair. He just teched it and forward aired me like a god. Like that was, it was just like, well, I mean, to be fair, it wasn't. It was a good play, but I'm never going to call someone a god for rock crocking, essentially. Well, no, what am I saying? Teching Nair isn't a rock croc, so yeah, that was a godlike play. So, the Robin is considerably harder to edgeguard in this game. Thankfully, Robin can't really edgeguard us either. But I feel it's like on stage, our hitboxes matter for nothing against Robin. So yeah, Marathon, he is super good. He's a very, very idiosyncratic player. Like he has a lot of really interesting quirks that he just like somehow makes work. And I think that's like a kind of a transferred skill from, he plays a lot of other fighting games. Like he's a big DBZ player, plays a lot of Unist and stuff like that. So Roy, basically same thing as Chrom, same issue with mobility. I think yeah, Roy and Chrom, it's just the fact that because Ganon has so few options, Ganon's like putty against them. Ganon does have his areas where he can access them and kind of make, you know, life a little better for himself, but generally speaking, in neutral and in disadvantage, Roy just like can scare. You really can't do anything against Roy in disadvantage, so he can scare you into doing all sorts of stupid things, and it's really, really risky to box with Roy. So I can't really think of any clear areas where Ganon can really gain the upper hand against Roy, but unlike like the impossible category, you know, it's like there are definite areas where like Roy does have to respect Ganon's Nair. You know, they do have to be careful about how they enter with Nair. They do have to be careful about Ganon jumping behind them when they're like trying to get in boxing range and stuff like that. But generally speaking, Roy is another kind of like really, really scary matchup. So let's see. This is probably the matchup I've seen, the character I've seen the least in this game. I have no idea. I'm just gonna say like wild guess and say like it's like slightly in Rosaluma's favor. I can't justify it. It just I played one Rosaluma and it just sort of felt that way. So that's real cute. They added their own thing for Sans. that's real cute. Real cute. SmashTierList.com. So Sheik, another case of probably the second rarest matchup for me. I have no idea. I would assume that she fits somewhere in like the clear disadvantage, because she's still, I would say what changed between Smash 4, where she was a nightmare, and here is the fact that relatively speaking, she's not much more mobile than she was in Smash 4. Ganon is significantly more mobile. He has hitboxes that can contend quite a bit more because her fair was nerfed. And generally speaking, I feel like her edgeguard game is probably still really strong, but I feel like Ganon's like I feel like generally speaking, Sheik just can't overwhelm Ganon as much. That's just my gut feeling. Again, that's totally just a gut feeling. I feel like we're just not nearly as overwhelmed. Still a bad off-stage game, but like we can still, because of just like general game changes and buffs to Ganon on mobility and hitboxes, at least with like Nair. No, not hitboxes, just like mobility and frame data buffs with Nair. We can play a little more non-committally in neutral, and she can't whiff punish us quite as well, and she can't carry us across stage to the same degree. Shulk, that is a nightmare. So I've played two classes of Shulks. I've played the ones that actually try to come near me and the ones who don't come near me. The latter are horrible. That's easily the most miserable experience of my life. Shulk, obviously he doesn't have great frame data, but I mean that doesn't stop him. That's like I said, people tend to be linear thinkers. They think of like, oh, bad frame data, but you can have one thing that is bad in a vacuum, but it can work functionally with other aspects of the character. And I think with Shulk's mobility, I think his slow frame data really isn't that much of a deal, except with respect to Ganon. But that being said, he's impossible to kill because once he gets into high percents, he's just going to keep going into Shield Monado, and there's really nothing we can do about it. So he's going to take an extremely long time to kill. If he's in Jump Monado, we're dead. If we go off stage, we're dead. And it's like with interpolated hitboxes, if he's in Jump Monado and he like does Nair, it covers half the screen, so it's like we can't contest it. And like here's my impression of me. Okay, you guys ready for this? Here's my impression of me playing against Shulk and when he's in Speed Art. Like I can't do anything else. It's too committal. Generally speaking, I think Shulk can stay out of range. He can stay in his effective range much easier than we can stay in ours. He kills us way leagues easier than we kill him. And he's one of those characters that it's really, because of his mobility, it's really hard to get him in situations where we can land winning blows. It's just really hard to kill him. Like, dude, it's like I'm serious. It's like I'm not a big fan of the matchup. It was bad in Smash 4, but it's a lot worse in this game. So yeah, Simon right in there. Ryu. I've never played a Ryu, not once. Not even on Wi-Fi, at least not that I remember. So I'm gonna file that under. I don't know. I'll just assume he's. I know he's like different from Ken, but I'm just gonna put him there. And I'm willing to believe you, MGK. I'm just kind of putting him there as placeholder. Snake, Nightmare, for reasons I'm sure I don't. Snake's dynamic is sort of unique in the matchup. And by dynamic, I mean he blows you up and then runs away. And circle camps you if there are platforms. Now, if there are platforms, the matchup becomes nightmarishly bad. I would say it's basically impossible with platforms. Without platforms, it's nightmarish. Again, for obvious reasons, Ganon really has no good approach options in the air. He basically has to call out grenades. He has to accept every time he makes a play on Snake, he's going to take damage. So it's a very explosive matchup. Get it? It's a very explosive matchup in many senses of that word. Mostly for Snake. It's like what was that Vine with like Riff Raff where he's like, I want to blow up and pretend like I don't know nobody, and it was like Snake photoshopped over. My goal in life is to blow up. But his recovery is really difficult to exploit. He can't really gimp us that. Well, no, that is a fucking lie. Nikita, you know what? Well, how did I even forget about Nikita? Well, I think I know the answer to that. I forgot it for the same reason. I don't know. I forget it for the same reason anyone else represses memories. Nikita is just. There was several. So one of the players I mentioned, Suop from my region, he is. If he's feeling honorable on that day, and I say that jokingly, but. He'll go his mains who are Lucina or Inkling. Those are his two big ones. But there was this one time where he saw Pow. Pow beat me as Snake. He saw Pow. Basically, that all Pow had to do was throw me off stage and Nikita me. And to this day, like he stopped doing it. I never let him do this to me again. But he got away with it once. He basically just spent the whole match dash attacking me because Ganon can't punish it. Every time he got me off stage, he would just sit there and Nikita. He wouldn't bother doing anything else, and it was effective. Ganon can do so little against Nikita. It is basically a death sentence if you are not perfect. So Ganon, again, reminding everyone of the dynamics at play here, Ganon has to be almost perfect about his predictions. And granted, Snake is big and fat enough that, like, if you get Snake in a disadvantaged state, Ganon can take that reasonably far. But it is so incredibly difficult to get him in that state. And anytime Ganon gets put in that state against Snake, it's basically a death sentence. So you basically have like a 1-to-5 ratio of necessary reads to take a stock. So it's just, it is obscenely lopsided in Snake's favor. But again, he doesn't quite qualify as impossible because because there are times where, there are situations where Ganon can sort of craftily fabricate him into a corner and for a brief moment make something work against him, whether it be like, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is he's not quite mobile enough. If you can pin him to a corner, he is not mobile enough that you can connect with something and put him in a bad situation. So there is hope. And I think really the big caveat here is the fact that he does lack that mobility. So anyway, almost done here. Almost done. This went on so much longer than I thought it would. Sonic, I'm convinced he's one of the best Sonic players in the world, but he never travels. His name's Famed Blade. I haven't played him in a long time, but I used to. I want to say Sonic is in the clear disadvantage territory. He falls into the class of very effective whiff punishers. He can gimp Ganon really easily, like he did in Smash 4, and thank God this matchup is not nearly what it was in Smash 4. In Smash 4, it was another case of Pikachu, where literally I could do nothing. Anytime I was able to beat Famed Blade Sonic, it's because I did nothing but jab the entire match and just committed to nothing else. Now, thankfully, you have quite a bit more latitude as Ganon to capitalize on what he does. Like, Spin Dash isn't quite as safe. He's the lack of invincibility on his up B makes it easier to kind of challenge him off stage, and he does not kill Ganon nearly as easily. But that being said, he still is an extremely effective whiff punisher. He can take Ganon to town if he wins neutral, and in general, I just feel like he is much more effective against Ganon than Ganon is against him. In fact, Four Eyes is here, dude. Four Eyes, what's up, man? So Four Eyes is another great player from the region of which I speak, Central Washington, a contemporary of Famed Blades. But yeah, I see he's been using Wolf more often. But that being said, I'm gonna say that just because Sonic is he falls into that class of a character that is so hard to hit, and can get so much mileage for committing so little against Ganon. I want to say. And this is where I'm starting to experience a little bit of cognitive dissonance because he's not quite in. I'm gonna keep him there because it doesn't feel right putting him in the same league as like Snake. And for that matter, I would almost say that Cloud does not belong there either. While I'm looking at it, let me make sure. Yeah, I think I still agree. I think I still agree with everything else that I put up here. Let's see. Let me make sure that male Pichu's not without. What May is that? Who that's supposed to be? Man, I only recently did I see like the new some of the new Pokemon episodes, and my God, it's like I don't think Ash looks good. I think the animation's really bad. But Terry, I once again have no idea. I have not yet played a Terry. There is a preponderance of Terrys in my region as of recent, but I haven't come across any of them. So I know Hades, who's in the chat, is one of them. But I'm gonna go ahead and say that, given how I'll just put him here. I feel like most Ryu and Ken players seem to have gravitated towards Terry, like Locust, Hades, a bunch of people that I'm comfortable saying that Terry's basically the Shotos. Oh, you guys switched to Terry? Crackshot beats any attempt to deal with it. Oh, that's comforting. That's good to know. Just kidding. That's not good to know. That's really bad to know. Squirtle, I would say. Honestly, I don't think Squirtle's that bad for Ganon. I don't. He can't do enough against Ganon. He has a strong combo game. He's really annoying, but I feel maybe nope. He's too mobile. I feel like he's too mobile, and we don't have a really consistent enough way to kill him. I'm feeling a clear disadvantage for Squirtle. So Toon Link is probably my least played of the links. I would say clear disadvantage. And so one thing I will say, I'm going to go ahead and skip to Young Link because I feel that there are meaningful contrasts between the two. Young Link, I honestly have a hard time. I want to put him in Nightmare, or in basically Impossible. I do. I may change my mind in a few minutes about that, but I really want to say, because there was this one Young Link player I played him online. I can't remember his name. It was like a 3-letter acronym or something. He was so on point. He didn't miss I felt so overwhelmed. Like every conversion he made basically led to my death. And I really don't feel like I was doing that much wrong. I felt like I had to pull out so many bizarre, exotic, otherworldly guesses to make this work that I just... Whereas, and I think that's in large part due to one, fire arrows, and Young Link's mobility. Young Link is considerably more mobile than Toon Link. Toon Link has overall, I think, a stronger projectile game. And it doesn't help that Young Link's bombs don't detonate. But because Young Link's or Toon Link's detonate, I think that makes it slightly more difficult to deal with bombs. And they'll do the bomb to throw a forward air in your face combo. I generally find that Toon Link's relative lack of mobility to Young Link is a huge cut against him, because it does allow Ganon to meaningfully close the distance, and it also means that whenever Young Link wins neutral, he basically gets like one exchange off of it and then it's over. Young Link can run the gamut. He can gimp you. You basically are impotent at the ledge against him. He's so quick that you really can't move against him. If he chooses to keep pressing buttons and maintain the right distance from you, you really can't move against him. Toon Link is just difficult to get in on. And I agree. I agree, Ishtar. I really do feel that way. So Villager, I'm going to say, is clear disadvantage. Well, I would say Villager's probably nightmare territory. It's close, but like I feel like Villager is a relatively fair matchup. I don't feel like any of these matchups up here are really fair. But funnily enough, that is the one thing that would make this matchup unfair is his fair. But that being said, obviously, the thing that really separates Villager from Isabelle is the fact that they both... It's not so much the slingshot that's a problem for Ganon, it's paired with Lloyd. Paired with Lloyd Rocket, and now that you can't whiz kick through Lloyd Rocket at any point, Lloyd Rocket is now an extremely effective tool, meaning you either have to just run away, give up all the stage control you've fought, hard-won stage control you fought for, shield, opening up to all sorts of mix-ups, or jump, which obviously the villagers, so it's, but that being said, I feel like Ganon does have a lot of room to make mistakes in the matchup, but so does Villager, but I feel like when Ganon does make it in, he can make a lot of things work because Villager's recovery is so exploitable. As long as, and not to mention, a Villager can kind of get bibbity booped at the ledge because if he tries to ledge jump with like slingshot, you can like back air preemptively, and that'll extend the hitbox. You can use the balloons for a hitbox extension. So the ledge is a dangerous place for Villager, and off stage is a dangerous place for him. So if you can get him to give up stage control or get in at all, his stubbiness really can't contest with Ganon up close. So that being said, there is that. It's kind of like with Snake. When you get up close and you are able to make it in, there is a ray of hope, but it is extremely difficult. Let's see. We're almost done. Wario, I think, is I want to say that is a nightmare for Ganon. Mobility, primarily speaking. Ganon cannot really touch Wario. Ganon has to play a really solid game of keep out against Wario, and he can keep Wario out. But that being said, Ganon really can't do much but that. Ganon can't. If Wario gets in on Ganon, it's like Ganon's gonna lose half his stock. Wario's gonna get nicked by your big toe. Is my big toe command still someone I can't remember the command. Oh no, I don't even have my Streamlabs bot open. But big toe. I had a command. Yeah, thanks guys. It is big toe. I don't know if it's here. Shit. Well, I had a command that had Patrick saying big toe. But like you'll nick Wario with your big toe. But anytime Wario nicks you, you're gonna lose half or all of your stock, and obviously waft. So it's Wario's mobility just outclasses us, and it's like basically it really is just a matter of his whenever he wins neutral, it is so much more substantive for him. When we win neutral, it does not mean that much. We die significantly earlier than Wario, and we also get to death percent significantly earlier than him. So it's just like you can't let Wario in. You basically, the last time I played a really good Wario was another person from Central Washington, currently number 1, if I recall, Piece 2. When I played him, that was some of the most stressful gameplay I've ever had to endure in my life, because he refused to do anything but circle camp, and I refused to do anything but not get hit. So I mean, we both were kind of like camping each other. But the reason why I feel like I had a better reason to not want to enter, because if he touched me, I die. If I touch him, well, unless he's at like egregious death percent, he's just gonna reset neutral. So that's my justification for that. Wii Fit Trainer, I actually don't really know that well. I would say that Wii Fit Trainer probably is pretty clear disadvantage for Ganon, just because, again, solid keep out game, I guess. Very hard to hit. I feel like there are really no situations where Wii Fit Trainer really has to respect what we do, or that we really get a lot of mileage off of what we excel at. Whereas Wii Fit Trainer just has a strong combo game, and just I don't know, man. They're weird characters. I don't like them. Deep breathing. So yeah, deep breathing. I just always sit there and plank. Whenever they like spawn, whenever they're on the respawn platform, and they do deep breathing, I just leave. And there are too many situations in this game like that where I just leave. I'm gonna leave just for a moment, just go over here and just like stall, because I just don't want to deal with that mechanic. I think it's poorly designed, 1, because it is easy to just out camp it, and 2, it makes it so that you really have no incentive to play the character. So it's a waste of time. So Wolf, I would say, is a clear disadvantage. Plaidman from my region has been using Wolf against me fairly recently, and I feel like what he tends to do, Wolf is a character that he has annoying hitboxes. It's like there were so many times when I played Wolves and like Plaidman, for instance, where I really felt like I should have won the exchange, but his forward air just cleanly beat my nair. and from that point he just kind of dragged me across the stage with forward air, and then I like died to a back air at like 100. Whereas if Wolf doesn't really commit to anything, and kind of like jumps over you and enters with Nair, it's really hard to like get him with anything other than just like nicking him with Nair. So I feel like Wolf has pretty good longevity in this matchup, and unless he's at a really specific angle, we can't gimp him that well. But by the same token, he can't really gimp us that well either. So yeah, so right, like MGK said, it's like Wolf's hitboxes are maybe a little overtuned. Maybe dial it back a little bit there. Wolf, I think, is pretty much in the clear disadvantage category. Yoshi, I am gonna put in the same category. Again, mobility issues. I do like Yoshi though, because there are so many creative ways as Ganon, I feel, to kind of meet his mobility options quite literally in the air. But just Yoshi's another one of those characters where it's so hard to punish everything he does that it requires several degrees of very, very acute prescience and just foreknowledge to really get a solid lick on Yoshi. And Yoshi just has some really potent mix-ups. God, I got this like lip thing. Yoshi, it's like my lips are cracked. Like chapped lips, man. Dry house. Yoshi, Yoshi can't really, like, we have good survivability against Yoshi. We live forever against him, and we can make him really hurt if we have our foreknowledge against his movement options really does pay off. But he has really annoying mix-ups in neutral, and he's just, again, he's kind of like constantly one step removed from being punished by anything we do, unless he's like really sloppy. But that being said, it really is. I can't really think of any particular areas where Yoshi just like outclasses us so much. Is really hard to hit, and we are not so much. So let's see. Near the end. So Zelda, I think, is a negative, like a -1 clear disadvantage sort of character. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. This is hard. Depending, Phantom is really like is pretty terrifying in this match. I'm gonna put her sort of there. Yeah, that feels right. Okay, I'm happy with that. Phantom is really scary because basically we either have to like jump, we have to burn our double jump. To jump cleanly over it, which opens us up to like getting lightning kicked or like up aired or whatever. So I would never take a Zelda to like a well, no, that's not true, because platforms actually help against Phantom. Because even though they make Zelda harder, it's a switch off. Platforms make Zelda harder to hit, but they also give you more options against Phantom. But that being said, without platforms, Zelda is significantly easier to corner and box in, but you really have no recourse against Phantom, and that opens you up to, like grab mix-ups and stuff. So Phantom is the real problem in the matchup, and the fact that between her rolling and her huge hitboxes and disjoints and Nehru's love, and like Furor's wind mix-ups, she's really slippery. But it's like, I'm gonna put Zelda in the clear disadvantage. Because, right, and that's kind of what I think as well, Ishtar. She really is in that, like, because like for instance, again, like when I was at a tournament recently, I played Zelda in like round 1 of pools, and the Zelda was pretty good, but they were like textbook like mid-level player, and I really struggled against them. Like I really don't feel like I made many mistakes, but they rolled a lot. They just spammed Nehru's love. In an intelligent way, like they didn't just use it every single time, otherwise it would have been an easy read, but they mixed it up enough that I wasn't willing to just confidently call it out. And so between like Phantom and the fact, oh god, and another one too is we really can't pressure her shield that well, because if we do, we're gonna get lightning kicked and we're gonna die. So generally speaking, I feel like Zelda kills us a good bit earlier than we kill her, between like just like calling us out with like jumping over Phantom, reads off of grabs from Phantom. She has a lot of ways to set up her win condition against us, And I feel like Ganon just has to struggle really hard to get solid licks on her because one, his hitboxes really just can't contend with hers, and she has such strong defensive options that even if you read her, she's sort of like Palutena. She's like a watered down Palutena. She can make a lot of kind of like boneheaded mistakes, but still get away from them or get away with it because she has very generous, like active frames on things and stuff like that, which are generally difficult for Ganon to deal with because he kind of like has to snipe out those the sweet spot between when your active frames end and your between your what's the phrase I'm thinking of, or the term, your not cooldown frames, but whatever, you guys know what I'm talking about, just actionable frames. So ZSS I would probably put as, that's tough because I've played a few ZSSs. I don't really know what I'd put ZSS at. I don't feel like she's in the same league as the Nightmares, but I still feel I would say but then it feels weird to put her in the same category as like Zelda, and it feels weird to put, I don't know, man. I'm having a real hard time right now. Here, you know what? I'll what do you guys think? Think she's a Nightmare, MGK? Lightning toes. Wait, Vermin Anubis? Oh god, no, it's like yeah, and I apologize guys if I haven't been if I haven't been like super attentive to the chat. I've just kind of I'm trying to not hold you guys up forever while I finish this, because it's taken like 3 hours almost for me to like get through this, so I'm just trying to get through this as quick as possible. Alright, so Kino thinks it's impossible. Giggle says it's a nightmare. Okay. Well, I think I'm impressionable on this, so I'll go ahead and yeah, I think I'm fairly happy with that. So Sans easy. So these guys, so I'm gonna do my best to be duly circumspect, but it's hard because the matchup varies so tremendously based on what specials they have. Like Brawler, counter is a big pain in the ass for Ganon, though I feel like counter is more of a gimmick than anything. It's annoying, but I feel like it's a gimmick. Yeah, Fire. You know what? I will enlist your services, sir, because I'm just so unsure. So here, intuitively, I think that it's probably just like, because I feel like Brawler is like Mario, but I think he has certain tools that make it harder for Mario. Like I feel like movement wise and just like conceptually, he has a similar dynamic to Mario. Wolf, you say? Huh? I've always heard him compared to Mario. So, okay. So yeah, I can see that. I can see him not being too bad. Gunner, I would say is probably disadvantaged because Gunner probably has the strongest zoning game out of any character in the game. I would say, at least against Ganon. But it's also the most modestly rewarded for it. Like, I've never fought a Gunner where I've died like earlier than 170. So I can make loads of mistakes, and I really feel like Gunner just can't do anything to me other than just like shoot projectiles at me. But I still feel like her projectiles are good enough and oppressive enough that it's sort of like a Duck Hunt situation where it's equally as oppressive as what Duck Hunt has, but just not nearly as well rewarded. And there's like a clearer path through it. And then Sword Fighter, I would say, again, is probably like a clear disadvantage. And the two moves that really make me say that are Discus. Discus is hell annoying, and Tornado. Tornado is just because I mean, as Ganon, it's like he can't really jump over it. It's like you have to burn your double jump like straight up, and a sword fighter just has like really good disjoint. Is one of those sword fighter is like one of those characters where it's you never feel like you should be losing control in the matchup. You're like, well, it's me, sword fighter, but it's like you slowly see victory fading from you. Like you're slowly like getting sucked into the bowels of hell as you're playing them, and you're not entirely sure why. Just they seem like such an awkward character, but maybe it's precisely that awkwardness that you're always just like, oh, I'm fine here. Oh, I just got hit. I guess I'm not fine. So yeah, that's one thing I have noticed when I've played the brawlers I have is that killing is not brawler's strong suit. But with like edge guarding, are you saying edge guarding with like shot put? Oh yeah, Ganon. He goes up there with Sans. You know, 0-100 matchup, Ganon wins all the time. But the interesting thing, I'm probably going to make a video about this at some point. Dittos, I think because Dittos always, they kind of screw with your brain a little bit, because you're like, well, is it 50-50 or is it 0-100? Because Ganon wins all the time. It's like Dittos really do provide, I think, a really interesting and valuable insight into the nature of matchup ratios and the things we really need to consider in them. Because when you're basically comparing the same tools against each other, then it becomes a purely like it's less subjective and more like a purely statistical analysis of like what exactly is going on in the matchup. Yeah, like Potato said, it's we're in a quantum superposition, and the wave function collapses only at the windscreen. Maybe that's why I never remember the Dittos I play, because it's like the Ditto was like non-deterministic up until the point of the windscreen, so it was just in this constant like wave form, before it finally, like I said, collapsed into like one definite like eigen state. So anyway, I did it. I finally here, let's. Oh, dude, this is a great song. Yeah, Rock Croc Ditto. Oh, what's up, Signum? So, anyway, I believe. Let me make a few last looks here. Make sure I am really pleased. Greninja, I'm tempted to put in impossible, but I'm not feeling that it's quite at that point. Like that this is a really special category for me. I feel like Greninja is just missing that all-important ability to just invalidate us off stage, which he can to a degree, but when I go off stage against Greninja, it's like Hydro Pump and like a back air or whatever. Those don't really scare me nearly as much as what Pika can do to me. And I feel like that's fundamentally like what makes them both bad. They share like fundamentally similar qualities about like what makes them bad for Ganon, but Greninja just lacks that ability to just invalidate Ganon off stage, I feel. Yeah, Punk. I'm gonna post this on Twitter. I'm gonna post it on YouTube as well. But so a few of you guys remarked about Hero being even, and that honestly I really don't know. I can't think like now. You know, again, I'm being a little capricious right now, but I feel like Hero is probably more like at a slight advantage because, again, Hero has like incredibly strong zoning tools, and that's really important against Ganon. But Ganon also really doesn't have a super hard time getting in on Hero. Like I can't really see what Hero can do to Ganon that Ganon can't kind of do in return. Like Hero still requires a fine degree of prediction to come out against Ganon as Ganon does against them. But I think why I would maybe be happier with them being slightly in their favor is that, you know, the whole ball in one's court idea. I feel like the ball is more frequently in Ganon's court to make things happen than Hero. Man, I've been my brain has been so warped from the years of like, well, it's almost like I have Stockholm syndrome, or like I've been in a toxic narcissistic relationship where it's like, you know, your significant other keeps telling you what a you know, bad person you are, and you just start to believe it eventually. And it's like sort of the same phenomenon with me and Ganon. I'm like, yeah, if there's anything Ganon can do at all, like if Ganon can literally do anything, like anything, if Ganon, if it's not a 100-0 matchup, then man, it's like I don't want it to be too unfair for the other person. Like I kind of view matchup ratios in a skewed way, not quite as bad as I used to. But like because it just occurred to me, like I was thinking like, man, yeah, Hero's not that bad, but I think to myself, I'm like, Hero oftentimes against Ganon can just straight up get like an easy 25 to 30% like risk free, just easy. It's like Ganon can't do that to Hero, and then it occurred to me just like, you know, because I was thinking like, oh well, Ganon only has to guess like 3 times to make something work against Hero, and then it just really hit me. I'm like, you know, Ganon actually does have to kind of work pretty hard to do anything to Hero. So my mind's kind of been warped over the years. I don't have an entirely objective view sometimes, but I'll pay money to see you do that, Giggle. As a matter of fact, I'll sponsor your thesis. So I think I might be happy with all this stuff. I might Pit. Yeah, I think I'm happy with Pit where he is. Banjo, yeah, I think Banjo's good where he is. Falco, unsure. Ice Climber's unsure, but seems right. Yeah, guys, I think I'm happy. I think I found true happiness in my matchup choices. Maybe the only one I'm still unsure about is Fox. I'm still a little unsure about Fox, so let me really, because I don't want to just let I don't want to let myself be too like suggestible. I really want to reason my way through this. Yeah, I'll say that, yeah. Okay, I think that, I think I'm, because I want to hedge here, because I don't want to like, I want to be like, yeah, I'm happy with this, and then like on Twitter it's like, why the fuck is, like, but I do think I'm reasonably happy with how everything is here, so, though I admit I'm surprised. I did think I would put more characters in perfectly even, but I don't know. I guess that's just how it goes, man. Well, I think the reason Fox runs around Ike but not Ganon, I think is almost uniquely tied to Ganon's Nair. Ganon's Nair is incredibly difficult for Fox to deal with. Whereas Ike really has no analog to that in the matchup. He really doesn't have any low frontal. He has like a wall he can create, like along, but it takes a while for that to set up. Whereas with Ganon, it's the immediacy of being able to achieve that wall directly in front of him makes it really difficult for Fox to like get in on him. And not to mention, Fox suffers off stage against Ganon. It's scary to be Fox against Ganon off stage. Like, truly. Whereas against Ike, it's not. It's like, what reason do you have to be afraid of Ike? What is he going to do? Down air you? So, yeah. And like Reeve said, well, he can use Eruption, but it's like, that's like what I call the fly, catching. I must be having a stroke because I can't talk, but it's like trying to catch a fly with chopsticks. It's like, yeah, it can work, but it can work in the same way using Warlock Punch against Inkling off stage can work. Like, yeah, in theory, you have to be really, really tight with the timing, but in theory, it's, you know, it could work. Riddles thinks Terry Ganon is even, huh? Am I gonna have to go beat Riddles up? I'm just kidding. Riddles, if you watch this, please don't come beat me up. So yeah, I think I'm happy. So anyway, guys, I'm probably gonna conclude here pretty soon, just because I want to go spend some time with my girlfriend, because I've kind of let this drag on significantly. Significantly longer than I intended it to. But at that, like I said, I'll be putting this on YouTube, and I'll be like posting my matchup chart to Twitter, so everyone can get mad at it and think I'm stupid or whatever. So anyway, that being said, thank you guys for spending your New Year's Eve with me, and I still have 17 minutes until it's the new year for me. So yeah, I guess in your face, East Coasters, and in your face, anyone that's not in Mountain or Pacific time zones. So anyway, thanks again, guys, and I will probably be streaming. I will start streaming Smash again soon, before too long. I promise. It'll happen. But until then, I hope you guys have a good rest of your New Year's, or New Year's Eve, or New Year's Day, or if you're Gaggle, New Year's after day. I believe it's Thursday the 2nd in Japan already. So anyway, thank you guys. Have a wonderful evening, and if you go out drinking or something, be safe. Pretend like you're invisible. Don't assume that people can see you when you're out driving tonight. Drive very cautiously. I'll be very happy to see you all at some other point, preferably alive. So see you guys.